DOE guidance says we are expected to record these meetings.
Yeah, we're live streaming now and it's recording it. And I will also hit the record here. Okay. All right. So I will start over again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us to the September working business meeting for the Community Education Council for District 2. Glad you can join us. There will be no public commentary sessions, but the next one, our open calendar meeting, will be on Tuesday, October 12th, where we will be listening to parents and community members. Today's agenda is available on the CECD2 website. That said, we'll have a call to order. Janie, if you can have roll call, please.
Yes. Okay. Robin Broshi.
Here.
Robin, oh, great.
I'm here.
Kaushik Das. Kaushik, can you hear me?
I have to make him a co-host.
Okay. I see him logged in.
Yes.
Daniela, I see you.
Yeah.
Lupe, I admitted you. Are you on? Lupe?
Present.
Thank you. Robin Kelleher.
I'm here.
Chen Kwok, I see you. Benjamin, I see you. Ushma.
Here.
I'm here. Lim Fong Sim, Len Silverman.
Here.
Yes. Yep, I see you. Lily.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. And Gabriela Calabria. Okay.
I'm here, by the way. I can unmute myself now.
Great. Okay. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, Janie. If there aren't any, hopefully all council members have been made co-hosts, so you can unmute yourselves. Our second item on the agenda is a discussion on council protocols, and I believe our parliamentarian wanted to make a few points on it.
So I just wanted to say that Ben and I received a number of emails from some people who watched the meeting last week, and they lodged a few complaints about the way the format was run. Specifically, they thought that some members interrupted other members. So I think it's just important that we just kind of have a very brief discussion about the protocols. We're going to follow Robert's Rules of Order. And I think it's going to be actually easier if we go to a remote format such as this. But I think we need to have an understanding that if someone is given the floor, that person really needs to have an opportunity to finish speaking before someone else chimes in. I think I didn't see it as much of a problem as maybe some other people, but I guess certainly in the live format, there was definitely a perception out there that some of us were speaking over other people. So I think based on the rules of order, it's up to the chair to recognize the person who's going to speak. And I think we in this kind of format, if we're remote, we could raise our hands. I mean, obviously it can be informal, but I think if we're having a discussion, especially about resolutions, and if it gets heated, maybe we should be a little more formal in who gets the floor at a particular time, so we're not speaking over each other. I'm just bringing that to everyone's attention. I don't know if that's something that you all want to speak about, but there were a couple of letters. I think there were 3 or 4 letters that we received that people were very upset because they thought that people were saying things and other people were talking over them. So certainly members of the public got that perception. Any thoughts, any ideas, or are we good to go?
Is it possible to get the letters shared with the council?
They were, I don't want to like, I want to draw attention to anyone. I think it's just, we get the point. I just think that I mean, Ben and I could talk about, I mean, we could talk about that, sure. We could do that with you, but I didn't like the tone.
It should have been shared before the meeting, right?
You know,
I think regardless, I'm sorry. Len,
Go
go.
Yes, it is.
I think regardless of, you know, if the public has complaints or not, I think it would be really great for us all to establish a respectful tone and hear each other. I think it's a very important part of it. And I can say, at least as a parent, you know, watching the meetings before I joined the council, it was definitely very frustrating to see, I think, a lack of respect and you know, proper public discourse that the council deserves. So I think regardless if you feel comfortable sharing the letters or not, people send to, I believe to you, to Ben, I don't know. I have not received any, but I think it's very important, and I don't need the public reaction for that. I think that should be a rule for ourselves so we can be effective.
I also don't know if it should be shared because I did not receive any emails like Daniela says, but if certain people, I think certain people feel comfortable reaching out to certain council members and not others, and that could and should be respected. I think and I agree with Daniela that we could have done better. I think if we disagree, particularly in public, it probably doesn't, forget about how it looks, but it also doesn't come across well over audio and video streaming anyway. So again, so I am in agreement with Daniela in addition to some other points.
And Len, I want to say thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, again, it's just, you know, I mean, obviously this is, you know, it's all a learning experience for everyone. And I think it will be, I think certainly if we're in this format, I think it's better. I think it's going to work better. You know, we have the hand raising capability. I think we're a fairly respectful bunch here, and sometimes we get all heated and don't even realize sometimes, but I don't think there's any harm intended, but I do think it's something we should be cognizant about, just because I think the perception that we create is important, and we set a tone of civility for everyone.
I agree.
I think certainly if we're in this format, I think it's better, it'll work better. We have the hand raising. That's really it. I mean, I guess, you know, I mean, there's not much more to add, but I guess if I see or we see a situation that comes up in the future, I'll just bring it to people's attention that maybe we should be a little tighter on following the Robert's Rules of Order.
Good. Can I just point out two things? One, I think Chen
Wait,
has
but
his hand.
meanwhile, Chen has his hand raised nicely and no one's calling on him.
That's what I was going to point out as number one. But just since could we maybe also go over Robert Chen's done, maybe go over what Robert's rules are just in briefly?
Yeah, you know,
But Chen first, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. So I would support, in the interest of fairness, that we do share complaints about the council that we receive with all the council members. I certainly want to, if someone complains about something I did, you know, in terms of due process, I think it's only fair to have that for everyone to know what the actual complaint is, so that, you know, and if it's coming into council member, it should be for the public record as well. So.
Len, along those lines, it was addressed to us too, but can it be retracted? Their identifiers.
You mean redacted, I guess.
Yeah, redacted. Yeah, redacted.
Look. I think it was 3 or 4, and I know one person was mentioned by name. I don't think really. I mean, I'd like to really just move on. I don't think anything really good comes out of that, but I mean, I understand. But it really was just addressed to Ben and I. I don't think it was officially addressed to the council. I mean, I'll defer to Ben on this.
All right, I'll have to review that. And
I have my hand raised.
yeah, I know, and I was going to call on you next. But Len, I'll review it and then come to a decision. Yes, Robin.
So I think that sounds like there's two discussions. One is, sort of the form, how we conduct ourselves at the meetings and how strict we are with Robert's rules and what the process is for calling on council members when they want to participate. So that's one discussion. And I think everyone can agree that, we shouldn't talk over each other and stuff and try to be mindful of when hands get raised. Separately is what discussions need to be shared with the council. So certainly, like, obviously anything that comes into info@cec.net or CEC2@schools.nyc.gov, like those should be available to everybody in the council. As far as like personal communications we get into our CEC emails, I can see why there's not an assumption of privacy necessarily. Excuse me. I can see why there might be an assumption of privacy on the side of an individual member of our community that sends us personal emails. So I wouldn't necessarily say we should just always forward those, but certainly redacting identifiers and saying this is feedback we got, it shouldn't be a problem. But these do seem like two different conversations.
Okay, Len. Yeah.
I'm trying to follow the format myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I agree with Robin. I think maybe we should let people in the public know that certainly those people watching this meeting, that if you have any issues that you want to address to a council as a whole, you could use the general council. Maybe we could put that on the website. You should use this particular email address if it's something that you want to share with everyone. Otherwise, we'll use our discretion in terms of whether or not we want to share it with particular people. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a solution, but again, I honestly think we all get the point, and I think it's better just move on. And I think we can be respectful, and I think we all realize what needs to be done. That's all.
Lupe, if you can make the last comment on this section, and then we'll move on to the next one.
I was just going to say, I think the bylaws certainly address communication when emails are coming through to the council regarding notices or matters pertaining to council business, and that it should be shared.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to maybe a more enjoyable agenda item on the agenda. Council member introductions. We've been so busy since July to get to this one section. I hope we can hear from each council member, a minute or 2 minutes just to tell us about yourself. I know, Lupe, you had mentioned a little bit about yourself 2 meetings ago.
I was going to motion to push this to the back.
To the back.
Because unfortunately, because
Yeah.
you did this at our last meeting, and I was very taken back by me starting off after someone else passed, and then business was being conducted behind me, and then we never end up finishing. So I think that we have a lot of things to go through this time.
Well, I want to get to this because this has been on the this has been something.
There's a motion in front of the council, so we have to vote on it. So Lupe's made a motion.
Right.
So I'm going to second her motion to put this after the business, and then the council can vote and decide whether or not they want to do that or not.
All right. Do we just vote? Hands up.
You say all in favor
Yeah.
of amending the agenda to move introductions to the end.
All right. Are we all in favor and moving the agenda on count introduction? I just see 3 hands up. and all not in favor of moving this agenda item? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so the agenda item stays as is. All right, shall we go alphabetically here? Janie, do you have the alphabetical list? You know, if a member doesn't want to, you know.
So
Discuss it, that's
alphabetical by
fine.
last name, Robin Broshi, you're first, unless you want to pass and go
So
later.
go ahead.
Okay,
I'm camera off tonight, but my name is Robin Broshi. I have 2 children in public school. My older one is 16. She went to PS 11, Baruch, and is now at Beacon High School. My younger one is 13. He went to PS 11 and is now at School of the Future. I've been on the SLT at most of these schools, and I am SLT chair. I'm currently PTA co-president of Beacon High School and sitting on the SLT there. I grew up in Westchester County. I've lived in New York since college, and that's about it.
okay, Kashif Das, you're next.
Sorry, are you calling me, Janie?
Yes,
Apologies. Brief technical issue. Hi, I'm Kaushik Das. I usually go by Kush to my friends. I think most of you have seen or heard from me already here before, but for those who haven't, I'm newly elected this year, but I've been speaking at these events for more than every single meeting for more than a year and a half now, I believe. I was really drawn to this because I was part of a PS33 SLT, and I was rather unhappy with the course that the DOE had put us on in terms of what we expect from our students in terms of meritocracy. I think Asian parents in particular, Asian families in particular, are outright discriminated against. And that has motivated me to come here and speak and continue along that path, and then to run. I also point out, though I don't love doing it, that I have 2 daughters. They're half Hispanic, and I am incredibly dismayed by the path the DOE has put us on for what that means. I hear a lot about it's terrible to sort kids by grades and whatnot. I think it is horrendously worse to sort them by the crude ethnic buckets that we have. My culture is far richer than Asian or Hispanic, and I intend to fight for these viewpoints as strongly and as loudly as possible, as well as meritocracy.
great. Daniela, you're next.
Hi, I'm Daniela Souza Igorov. I have a son who is 3rd grader at PS 77. He has been there for 2 years. He did kindergarten at PS 234, and I have another son who hopefully will be at PS 77 next year at kindergarten. I grew up in Brazil. My parents did not go to college. There was only one person in my family who went to college. And education has been my passport for a much better life. I'm so grateful for all the education opportunities that I had and for everything that this country has given to me. And I have been working with education policy and particularly creating school options for children in low-income communities for over the past 10 years. I'm very passionate about this, and that's going to be my focus here, really to make sure that every single child in our district has access to a really high-quality education.
Okay, Lupe Hernandez, you're next.
Hi, I'm Lupe Hernandez. For those of you that didn't get a chance to hear me speak at the last 2 meetings ago when we did this, but I have an 8-year-old son here in District 2, and he's in 3rd grade, and I have another younger one. I have been attending the CEC meetings as a parent and advocate, not just for my son or my son's school, but also local neighborhood families and schools within the building that I live in. I joined because I wanted to work and collaborate with more families that represent District 2 and make sure that every District 2 families are heard, and voices that may not be able to come to these meetings often. They may not have the time and the energy or the resources due to personal circumstances. I take great pride in advocating on their behalf.
Thank you. Chen Kwok, you're next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chen Kwok. I'm a parent of 2 public school children. My son, my eldest, he's in middle school at Clinton. He's in the 8th grade, studying for the Shishat. My daughter is at PS111 in the G&T program. Both my children went through the PS111 G&T program. Awesome school, great teachers, and Clinton is very nice as well. I got involved with the whole education advocacy, more on local issues. PS111 was about to get co-located, and DOE didn't care about the impact to special education students, the loss of therapy rooms. So I learned that to get anything, we have to fight and get people's attention in the DOE. And so it so happens that Robin Brochu was the first person I met at the CEC. But then, other education issues came up. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Tech. I worked and lived overseas for many years. When I came back, it wasn't over 50% Black and Hispanic anymore, and I was shocked. And one of my passions is now fighting to improve education, to get education so that it had all students, regardless of income, racial background, can have an excellent education to set them up for an outstanding future academics as well as career and life outcomes. So thank you.
Sorry, I missed you, Robin Kelleher. I skipped over you. I apologize.
No problem. My name is Robin Kelleher. I lost my voice this weekend, so bear with me. I have 3 children. All 3 of them have been or are at PS33. I have a 12-year-old son who's now at Lab Middle School. I have been president of PS33 PTA. I'm involved with the lab. I'm on the lab EB. I'm still on the EB at 33, and I've been involved in education the last 10 years. And I've been coming to the CEC meetings. I also got to know Len and some others, Maud, at the CEC meetings when I first started attending as president of PS33. I grew up in Miami, and I attended a school very rich in diversity. It was a public school, and it was an international program for students who were high performing and were able to opt into whatever language they chose. We had French, German, and Spanish. And in my classroom, I had so many amazing friends who had come to our country who didn't have parents who spoke English, didn't have parents who were able to have a home. I grew up with them, and I watched them thrive in an educational system that served them. And I watched similar to what Daniela said, how education could be a passport to a better life. And I watched them return to their community what had been given to them. And I feel very strongly about public school and what we should be doing for our students. And I will continue to fight for the betterment of all students. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Ben, you're up next. Benjamin Morden.
Thank you, Janie. Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin, or Ben, as most people call me, Ben Morden. This is my 3rd year on the council. I came I guess maybe through a circuitous route, not so much in the PTA, though I was a class parent for 5 years and I did serve on the SLT. I was a class parent 5 years at PS 33, a class on the SLT at PS 116. But I came here because I saw enrichment programs do some tremendous good for my daughters, their classmates, and I got involved heavily in after school programs. I have 2 daughters in middle school at Salk. They went to PS 33, and then I have a daughter at Brooklyn Tech. And by having 3 children at various different times in different schools, from elementary through high school, you get to see the spectrum of what works and what is working and what isn't. But what drives me is when I saw a homeless person, a young boy, go from just coming to our country in 1 year, not knowing how to play chess, because that was the enrichment program that my daughters were in, and seeing him evolve to a state champion. You feel that with the right tools, if given the right tools and given the right motivation and acceleration and encouragement, that anything is possible. And that's why I'm here, to see that magic be replicated and encourage our children, because more than ever, kids need that right now, whether they're going through some difficult times, whether it's learning loss, social emotional needs, and I feel that's the greatest good that we can do right now, is to encourage and prevent a lost generation. Thank you.
Okay, next is Ushma Neal.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ushma. I have 3 kids, a 7th grader at Salk, an 8th grader at Baruch, and a 10th grader at Brooklyn Tech. I also spend my days as the Vice President of Education at Memorial Sloan Kettering. So education is what I do all day, every day, for different groups of kids and adults. As a working parent, I was never able to be a class parent, go to the PTA meetings and any of that. So this was the route that I chose to try and give back towards the most important thing in my kids' life and what was going to shape them. And as Daniela said before, their passport to the future. So I tried running for the CEC twice, once in a special election when someone dropped out, then in the open election, and started speaking with Matthew Horowitz, who was on the council a few years back, and he told me about the borough president application. So last year, or the first time I served, I was nominated and placed by Gail Brewer, and I'm in my 2nd term being a borough president appointee together with Lupe. And that has been also very enriching to get a chance to hear about education policy from the borough president's office. My particular passion is also on diversity, equity, and students in temporary housing.
Okay, I'm next. My legal name is Lim Fong Sim. I think nobody knows me by that name. I go by Janie. I have twins who graduated from PS 41, and I have an 8th grader currently at Baruch. I've spent time helping as class parent. I was in the SLT at PS 41. I'm on the exec board at Baruch Middle School. I try to do what's right by the kids, whether it's helping either fundraise, focus on educational issues, focus on quality education. I really approach it as, I try to do what needs to be done, and I try to rise to the occasion and try to add value where I can. Len Silverman, you're next.
Good evening. My name is Len Silverman. I'm the father of 3 boys who I affectionately refer to by their nicknames of Satan, Lucifer, and Mephistopheles. My oldest son graduated and is now a freshman in college. I have a middle son who is a junior at the Bronx High School of Science, and I have a 3rd grader at PS 158. My kids have graduated from PS 6, PS 77, Eastside Middle School, Wagner Middle School, and Baruch High School. I had to actually look down because there's so many schools, it's very hard for me to keep track after a while. I've served as an SLT member, a grade rep, a PTA vice president. I served 2 terms as the PTA president of Lower Lab School, PS 77, and 2 terms as PTA president of Eastside Middle School. I was reelected earlier today to my 4th term as co-president of the District 2 President's Council, where I've also served 3 prior terms as the District 2 representative to the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. My late mother started teaching in 1956, started as a school teacher, became an assistant principal in 1967, a school principal, an assistant superintendent, a deputy school district superintendent. She came from a generation that believed in giving back, and as an immigrant family, knew that her commitment to education were really about giving back to the community and really making a difference. And that's really has inspired me, and my father as well, in his community service and involvement. And that's why I'm here. And I've always viewed service on a PTA or service here. This is also my 3rd year on the CEC, and now I'm parliamentarian. I viewed that as a commitment to public service and really trying to make a difference in our community. And it really is a way of giving back. And my parents instilled in me that it's a debt that we owe to the people that came before us. And it's something I take really seriously, and it really has motivated me in terms of trying to be there for our district families and kids.
Great, and last person is Lily Wu.
Hi, my name is Lily Wu. This is the first time for me is be the CEC2 member. Actually, my English not speak very well because I'm still learning because I'm 2011. I just moved. I'm just immigrated to the New York. Yeah. So I have the 3 girls. They go to the PS 42 and then MS 131. They are 8th grade and 7th grade and the 3rd grade. Jenny， 我有一点需要翻译。
好，你可以说我，I'll try. Chen, I might need your help.
我尽量帮你啊，你说。
就是现在目前其实只有自我介绍嘛，还要说些什么吗？
一般就可以了。你有没有做 PTA 或者 SLT 呢？你在你的学校，你是孩子的学校
？PTA。
你有做 PTA 那个执行嘛？那个 executive board 嘛，做 president 是做主席嘛，或是做这个 PTA 里面的 SLT？
我们就是在 MS131那边，就是有参与那个就是 PTA 的一个会计的项目，就是财务的项目。
你就参与，不是你是不做领导是吗？不是 PTA 的领导？
不是，并不是，就是只有参与。
都可以的，就可以，一般就可以。
嗯。
She was active in the PTA, but not necessarily as an executive board member. 谢谢。
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just add on? I forgot to mention that at PS 111, I was previously SLT, and I'm a current recently elected SLT. and previous co-president of PS 111 of the PTA, and currently also SLT at Clinton School. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Is that everyone, Janie? Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for sharing. I think it's important for our community to know who the council members are. Feel like Superintendent Kelly Mcguire, if you want, I know it's our business meeting, but if you want to, so people can hear what you a little bit about yourself as well, so it's important, I think. And if people don't mind that, we can just hear from our superintendent, so people know, because he's new to District 2.
Thanks. I will. I'll keep it really short. I appreciate the chance to share, though. But my name's Kelly Mcguire. I've been serving as superintendent of District 2 since February of last year. I had worked in District 15 as a assistant superintendent for a little over a year, but was a principal in District 2 prior to that. At Lower Manhattan Community and an assistant principal at Wagner Middle School. So it's been great to be back and to reconnect with people in the district that I had worked closely with. I have 2 8th graders who are crunching away on the high school application process. And so I'll have that in common with many of you, and maybe we can work together and share some ideas as the year goes on. But thanks so much, Ben, for the time, and I look forward to listening in tonight.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. All right. Now, just before our last meeting, our calendar meeting, we had a change in the open meetings laws. And some of the council members have voted to decide how we will be going forward. We have, I guess, 3 options that we can do. One of them is remote. The other option would be a hybrid, which would be where council members and parents could be both in person and or in remote. And the third option that we could have, we could rotate between remote and a hybrid option. We voted early, and I had to change the voting selections. So if we have so far 4 votes, if people can, this link was emailed earlier. If people can, council members can all vote again. If you had voted earlier, I would appreciate it, and then we can, because we don't yet have a full count. Yes, I see Lupe, you're first if you wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I just thought, can I make a motion that we speak about these options? I wasn't prepared to make a vote without any type of discussion on the pros and cons of each of the options available to us at this point. So
go ahead, sure.
I'm motioning that we at least have a discussion before voting on how we proceed with meetings going forward.
I second that motion.
It's part of our agenda anyway, so I think we can discuss it without having to vote on it. So do you want to mention something before Robin wants to speak?
No, go ahead, let Robin speak. And I mean, I just wanted you're asking us to vote, and I just think that it's something we should be discussing prior to making a vote.
Okay, well, we did have a discussion and we did vote on a resolution that we were, I think, might have been unanimous about in favor of having the option for remote.
Right. Well, with this new policy, the changes that were made just as of last week, our hybrids as now, I mean, if you want me to get into it, they're not really, I think as best as we've tried to have the audio as clear as possible for parents to be able to even listen in and hear has not worked out very well. And there was not the ability to participate, which at this point, I believe the way I understand it, it is mandatory that if we did continue to meet in person, that there would need to be virtual participation available to the parents that are unable to come in person. And then I thought that based on the budget that I know that Chen worked on, it did have, those are something that we could talk about. And I don't know if we make the decision based off the budget, or do we make the decision and then the budget's based off that?
Robin, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what Lupe was just saying. It seems like the guidance from DOE is that we are expected to always have a remote option. The feedback that I heard from the past 2 meetings was that the audio was very difficult to understand and follow from folks that were logged in remotely. And that was just a live stream. Hybrid is different. It requires managing both. So you have to have a high quality audio, and then you have to have someone actively engaged with the folks logging in remotely. And I have not seen the vote, the doodle that you've updated, but now that we're on a meeting, we shouldn't be voting on doodle. We should vote at the meeting. So I would say that assuming the question is simply hybrid versus remote only, it seems like remote only is the path of least resistance. It doesn't pose the same kinds of technical challenges that hybrid would pose, both in terms of making sure that the audio is accessible and also making sure that we're managing both folks logging in remotely the same way, that there's equity in access in terms of public speaking for people logging in remotely versus showing up in person, especially since we don't have an AA right now. The guidance also says that not just members of the public, but members of the council itself have to count towards the quorum. It just seems, if they're logged in remotely, it seems like it'll be very hard to really maintain equity if some people are showing up in person and some people are logging in remotely. So I would say that remote only through January seems to make the most sense and seems to be the most equitable approach, and just seems to be the most technologically efficient approach. And that's it.
Chen, you're next.
Yes, I do want to say that, I think our budget is at 25,000. Depending on the options we want to use for our meeting formats, I put together a kind of high level estimate. I looked at prices here and there, but it's not a detailed, down to the nitty gritty. But even then, we have a limited budget to get the quality, depending on the various options you want to choose. I think, I'll just talk through what I have for my assumptions, right, for the budget. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but I can also share it. But, and in short, if we have Zoom meetings, the implications are that we'll have lower costs for transportation and office supplies, and we might have long meetings as we experienced in the past year and a half, with more parent participation, and that'll drive different costs in the Zoom capacity, video streaming, and storage. And when we have a virtual environment, we might need more spending on services and technology and the software services and equipment to support outreach and engagement through the virtual method. The thing though with like, it's all virtual, complete virtual, is that I think the downside of virtual is that, I mean, the plus side is we have a lot of, family engagement. Absolutely. It was amazing to be able to not have to schlep to different locations across District 2 to participate. And I think, families who have young children who can't come out, it liberates them, and the meetings are also recorded and you can refer to them. The downside though, is that unlike an in-person meeting, the people participating have less control. All the controls are in the hands of the hosts or the co-hosts of the council. So if they can be muted, they could be they could be kicked off, and if the council decides. So there's a little bit of unfairness in that regard, because if you're in person, you can make a lot of, if you're unhappy about something, it may not be following protocol, but at least you can still be heard, and it's harder to be muted or shut down. And on the flip side, for those council members in an in-person meeting, we have to face the public. We have to face the families of our community, of our district. What I also experienced, through the last year was that council members had their screens turned off, and people can't see their faces. And also people's faces were turned off by the council, and not voluntarily by the audience, by their families. So I think that's unfair. So I think if we adopt, from just not the cost basis, but just as a protocol basis, if we do choose to adopt remote for whatever pros and cons, we need to have some sort of protocol for council members to be on screen unless there's a short, you have to use the bathroom, you have to attend to a child, or something that's reasonable, and not have the whole meeting, unless there's like, some circumstance, right? The public deserves to see our face and see us, engage us. And, and we have to be take care, to not kick off or mute people just because they say things we disagree with. Okay, me having been someone who was like attempted to be muted last time, but in the past. So those are the protocols I think we need to adopt if we are to go with full virtual, to be fair to the public and to the families of our district and the general public. We are still subject to open meeting, the spirit of open meetings, if not to the law as written or the exception that is granted to us. Now, for the other options, the cost and the complexity goes up if we choose a hybrid, because as you can see, we already have a challenge of just an in-person and trying to stream it out without having people remotely talk to us over the line. So if we need to hear them too, which we want to in more of a hybrid mode, that would entail more complications, and it might be, I'm not arguing that we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it takes more complexity and higher costs and more expertise than maybe that, our whole council, that lacks, so I'm not going to claim to know a lot of stuff about this. So, and we may not have the time to be so focused on it unless DOE or some other, resource can help us. Those are things to consider. Thank you.
Kush, make your comment.
Hi, yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. I actually, in an ideal world, I think the right thing to do is to alternate between in-person and remote. But the reality is, as many of others have pointed out, I think neither live nor hybrid or anything in between. I just think we've lacked the technological ability to do that well. I really, on top of that, I don't love talking in masks. I'm talking in masks, and I'm not talking about masking versus not masking, and not a political issue. It's just the fact of the matter remains, public hearing us in masks over a microphone, over a video, isn't a great experience, I think. I haven't looked at it ourselves, but I can't imagine it's a great experience for the end user. And I think this is going to be this could potentially be a short time window through January anyway. So I'm all for, at this point, though I'd love to come up with a more sophisticated solution. I think remote is the best way to go. We've certainly had the largest attendance through remote only, particularly, yeah. But I would caveat with that, with some of Chan's warnings. I think we had the most attendance when it was when it was remote and people got to be full audio, and also when there was chat. I know there's been some problems with that. I know there's been some problems with video bombing, but honestly, we're adults here. I don't think the video bombing that occurred, some of it was nudity and some of it was more colorful and not pleasant. I agree, but that should not be an excuse to take away the voice of all the parents that line up to speak and want to be heard. And we're big boys and girls, and we should be able to take whatever comes at us in the chat as well. So I'm all for remote. I'm all for full public speech. Also, I would add, it's been mentioned to us a few times. I also think we should consider adjusting speaking times. It's also mentioned in my platform when I ran. I think we should consider adjusting times. If only 5 people show up to a meeting, there's no reason why they should only speak for 2 minutes. I think they could speak for 5 or even unlimited. And I think that holds doubly true. Should they choose to do so in person if that is the route in person or the hybrid route that we choose. That's it.
Len, you're up.
So I've been attending CEC meetings long enough to know, as Robin Broshi might recall, we've had some live meetings and you get about 5 people that would show up when we would be at the office going back a number of years. Certainly we've had live meetings that have attracted enormous attendance. Those are when we have hot issue topics, admissions, SHSAT. Certainly we've had hundreds of people show up. But I think if we are to remain relevant as a council, we have to have a remote option. I just don't think there's any other possibility, especially if you look at the last attendance that we had. It was not great, to say the least, even online. I think we need to do more and do everything we can to make sure that as much we can get as great a participation in terms of our parents and our outreach as possible. Otherwise, we're just going to become an obscure organization that really doesn't do anything. And I think it's absolutely vital that we get the largest turnout that we can. And I also just want to remind people, we're still in the middle of a pandemic and there's safety issues here. And there are breakthrough, as Ushma can tell you, there's breakthrough infections also. And I think that's something that can't be discounted. And we certainly have parents that are not comfortable coming into a school. There's the issues of having people come into schools and whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated and whether or not a mask is sufficient, or you can still get a breakthrough infection. So I think given the safety issues, we absolutely have to do this remotely. I don't think a hybrid either is the way to go. And finally, I would again harp on what you guys have said before. I do think we should have some protocols. I do think it's important really to connect. I don't know if it has to be mandated per se, but I certainly think if we want to connect with our constituents, they should really see our faces. I think that's absolutely important to connecting with people rather than just being a name on a screen. I understand there are certain times that maybe that's not really practical. People may have had some situations come up, but I think everyone should try to make an effort to do that. But because of the safety issues and we're also a large district, it's inconvenient for people to, even though we try to mix the locations up, it's inconvenient for people to arrive and come to these meetings. Much easier to log on. We want to get as many people here as possible. I think that's what we really should focus on, protecting our constituents and making sure that they're able to hear exactly what we're doing and to hear from them, and to give them the opportunity to speak to us, so we can listen to them and take their thoughts under consideration.
Thank you, Len. Robin Broshi.
I'll keep it brief since I already spoke. Obviously, my camera's off, so I have some thoughts about having grace for people with their cameras off. I think it's a privacy issue about whether I want my home exposed. I think it's also and I don't want to make it about me. Obviously, I've had my camera on in lots of meetings, so but the precedents we set aren't about us. As Jennifer Greenblatt always says, you don't make rules about specific people, you make rules based on the principles. And so I think we should honor folks that might not want their home exposed, that might not have the, be able to put in the latest version of Zoom, that can allow them to put in a background that's different, because that requires specific versions of Zoom and certain amount of CPU capacity. And when we are remote, there have to be compromises. Now, obviously, I often have my camera on, but tonight I'm choosing to have my camera off, and my reasons are personal. And we have to have trust that everyone's acting in good faith. And if we don't have those basic assumptions of trust among us and with the people in our community, then that's a different issue. But, and I certainly don't think we can mandate it anyway. I'm sure the DOE wouldn't allow that. But I just think as a matter of respect, that as a council, if I hear a lot of people talking about being respectful and how we want to be perceived by the public. And I understand wanting to make that physical connection with people through their face. But I also think that showing that we trust each other, that there's a good reason if your camera's off tonight, and not having it be a rule for our council, that also speaks to how we are perceived by people in the public. And even if we have some very fundamental disagreements with each other, and even some hostility sometimes, that there's still a baseline of trust, that if a member of the council has their camera off, that we trust that they have a good reason for that. And certainly also to this question about the rules online, and I know that there's concerns about the last council and what those rules were regarding chat. Those were agreed among the members of the council, and this council can agree to different rules. And certainly meeting on Zoom doesn't mean we have to have no chat. Those were the rules that, if I recall correctly, were unanimously agreed on in the prior council, because we thought it was disruptive and distracting, and we tried it with chat and found it ended up the bad outweighed the good. But this is a new group of people, and we can come up with our own set of rules. So we certainly don't have to consider what our remote meetings look like through June 2021, June 2021, to be what our remote meetings have to look like going forward. We have that flexibility. And now I'm done.
Jennifer Greenblatt, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, Ben. And yes, Robin, you're always correct about that. I always do say that you should make rules based on what you think is right for the organization, not individual people. I just want to give you a reminder that if you do choose to do it in public before you vote, that you do need an opportunity for those watching remotely to be able to participate in the meeting. So that is something that is a little bit more complicated than just streaming it on YouTube. Thank you.
And thank you for pointing that out. Robin Kelleher, you wanted to speak?
I just want to say something very quickly. Thank you. I also suggest that regardless of the platform we choose, that we adhere to Robert's rules, and we only speak, each council member should speak once per topic or per issue, unless asked a question or responding. But I suggest we adhere to the rules so that everyone else has a chance to speak as well.
Unless there are any other comments to be made, I think we can vote on how we want to go forward through at least January 15th. So that would include the January meeting. I see Danielle, you'd like to say something.
I'll be very brief. I would really prefer in person, because I do think that it makes such a difference talking to people that you disagree in person. It's just night and day, the difference. So, but I see that everybody has very good points, and I'm clearly in a minority. And so I will vote in favor of that. My only request is that we have an end date, because I do think that it's important for us to, return to normal, particularly when we are advocating so strongly for our schools to be open normally. And so we are asking our teachers and school staff to be there. And I think we should lead by example. And I also do think that the Zoom makes it very comfortable for us to be away from the public. And I agree with, I don't remember who said this, but I do think that we need to face the public, and sometimes in-person interactions are very different. I think also we all learned through this pandemic, sometimes people on Zoom go a little sideways and, behave in ways that are not very democratic. And so I really think that the faster we can get to in person, I do think that would make a difference for how we operate as a council.
Ushma, yes.
Just want to second what Daniela just said. I think there's something that is lost by not establishing relationships between all of us in person and being accountable to the public. But that's all. Just want to co-sign what Daniela just said.
Kush, yes.
I'm sorry, I just missed one thing that Daniela, you suggested that we set aside a date to still meet. Is that what you said in person? I missed that.
Well, I think we cannot live forever in a pandemic mode, right? Hopefully. So I think that at the point we should, get back to our lives. And so, I see Len put here that it's into the current guidance into January 2022. So it's a few months, I agree. So then maybe let's just have a different conversation in January and see if, at that point we are able to go back to in-person.
Right. I don't disagree with some of the things that you and Ushma said. Which is why in an ideal world I'd love to alternate. I feel the technological, economical, and logistical and access costs have been too high so far, and they haven't worked out well for us. Is my concern. I'll shut up now.
I just want to point out the meeting dates that we've all agreed to, that they stay the same. So we're not changing any of the dates. And I think this decision should just stand for what the DOE has announced, that, and I guess the state as well, through either January 15th or 22nd, but it would count through our January meeting. So, and then we should revisit it and see if it worked or it didn't work or what we can do better. All right, so Robin Broshi made a good point. We can just vote here, and I'd like to make a motion to now vote on the on our next set of calendar and business meetings for October, November, December, and January. In light of the OML changes, I'm going to take 3 votes.
A second.
Yes. Thank you.
Can we just get clarification in terms of the actual motion? Is there a motion that the meetings be held, how the meetings will be held? So in other words, is there a motion that they be held remotely, via hybrid, or in person? We have to clarify that for the motion, what we're voting on.
Thank you.
He was about to do that.
Yeah.
I interrupted him.
The motion would be to vote for one, either remote calendar meetings, like what we have today, or the second option would be a hybrid CECD2 calendar meeting.
It should just be a single motion, a motion in favor of having our meetings remotely through January 2022.
I second.
But what about the hybrid option?
Share all the different
I think,
options. and how
weren't we
they-
talking about hybrid as well?
We should do an up and down yes or no vote for first on the remote. Holding the meeting remotely.
But what if we have,
2022.
I think that we need to determine if we would prefer both those options to in person, then it doesn't make sense to just do an up and down.
I don't know, maybe I got the
Our
wrong
only two
conclusion.
options are remote or hybrid.
And can we physically, is it feasible for us to
That's
do
not true.
hybrid?
That's not our only option.
Yes, it is.
Those were recommendations. Our options are hybrid, remote, or or either or rotating between them.
No, the
Exactly.
DOE says we cannot have exclusively in-person meetings.
That was
No,
for the
that's not what I'm
parents. The
saying.
parents have to have an option
No,
to join.
DOE says that members of the body have to be able to count towards a quorum if they're logged in remotely. So that means that all the members of the body have the ability to log in hybrid. So the two choices are remote or hybrid. In person for members of the body is not an option.
I also want to
There is
just
a-
point
I
out,
need to say there is a third option. And your third option is to have a combination of the two.
but can we do
Thank
that?
you.
That's what hybrid is. Hybrid is a
That's what
combination.
hybrid. I just thought
That's-
based off of
No,
our.
I don't mean a combination of the two. I mean, you're gonna have some hybrid meetings and you're gonna have some remote meetings. That's what I mean by that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Just based off of the conclusion of what everyone has said, including, Kush said it, he said in an ideal world, he would have liked to have done an alternating thing. But I thought we all it was a consensus that unfortunately, we have not mastered the art of being able to have our hybrid virtual portion, one, audibly, like good quality of audio. Two, we have not figured out how we would have parents be able to participate. So I don't know if that was an
Point of
assumption, but
order. Point of order. I think we made the motion is which one of these three options are we going to vote for? Isn't that it? I mean, isn't
You
that
have a motion on the floor and you have to have a motion.
We already
Robert
had,
needs a motion to do it remotely.
thank you.
So you have the motion on the floor. You need to call the question. I don't mean to be the parliamentarian,
Yeah,
but
no, that's okay.
then we're co-parliamentarians. You need to call the question once you're done discussing it, and then vote on that motion because it's on the table.
And is there theoretically a possibility that if that motion passes, then we'd have to vote on anything else, or that would just be it?
Then you're done.
That's it. Okay.
We can do hybrid versus in person, and then we could do hybrid versus fully remote. We
But
could make
Robin-
two separate motions if we wanted to vote on the three of them.
The motion was already made, I think, by Robin to call it for remote, correct?
actually,
I think the first motion was made by Ben and.
yeah, I
seconded
think
by
I made the
Robin.
motion first. And
Between the two.
And I seconded that, so that would be the order we go in.
Okay.
Okay, Ben, can you repeat your motion? Because I don't think in that motion that it went, it said how you wanted to hold the meeting.
That
So
was the
if
issue,
you make a
Yes.
friendly amendment to
The-
your own motion,
Right.
then you have to remove the other motion from the table.
Which would then put Robin's motion in motion.
In flux, actually.
Right.
yeah. The motion, Chen, did you want to say something before we move forward? Yeah, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just rereading the guidance from DOE. And it does seem that, if we are in person, we must be able to take remote comments from the public.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out if it
Our
requires the CEC members to be remote, or do we need to be in person?
It says that CEC members count, that remote attendance counts towards the quorum
Correct.
in the letter.
Yeah.
Which means that members may join remotely
Correct.
and be considered present.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarification.
CEC20, by the way, did a hybrid meeting recently, and every member had a computer they logged on if they were in person, and obviously if they were not in person, they had a computer access as well.
I believe they
motion-
also do it at one location, which makes it a lot, like just the logistics a lot easier. With us changing locations and just having different equipment each time. There's only 3 or 4 months left.
Okay, I'd like to move forward on the motion.
We go back to the motion. Point of
Yes.
order. We've already had our discussion. Let's
Yes.
formulate the
So-
motion.
Exactly. So the motion was to vote on whether to have it remote, hybrid, or to rotate each month the next 4 months.
How do you, okay.
You wrote 1 month you do remote, the next month you do hybrid.
Curious on how this vote is going to go. You're not giving us one option to vote yes or no.
Could have
The motion should be to have a combination of remote and hybrid meetings, alternating monthly.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's clearer. Do you agree?
It just seems like the clearest way should be like a first pass.
All remote.
Should we have all remote through January? And then if that doesn't pass, then we can try to vote on other options.
I have to agree. I think maybe that's the easiest way to do it.
I think that's probably not the easiest way, but I think we're going to arrive in the same place. So I'd like to move forward.
We can, I guess,
motion to an all, just a discussion of a remote option.
Yeah, maybe it's just yes, just easier remote and hybrid. And if we want to change it, we can vote again next month if we want to rotate. Okay. So I'll put a motion to vote either remote or hybrid.
No, that's confusing.
I second, thank you.
I second.
I don't understand what we're voting for. So I'm voting
Remote
yes
versus
or no.
hybrid, I think was the motion Ben put out, and I seconded it. So we should go on to
No,
voting.
but
so
I
we
don't
can
understand what.
Take care of the rest of the
am I
business
voting yes,
tonight.
or am I voting for a thing?
You're voting for a thing.
Okay.
For remote or hybrid.
But is that typically how votes work? When you motion, you don't, you're motioning to pass something?
We have candidate 1, candidate 2, choice 1, choice 2, which has the more votes.
It's fine. That's fine.
We just again clarify, so this is a motion that our meetings that are scheduled through January be held in either all remote or a hybrid format, correct?
And it would be hybrid for every meeting or remote for every meeting.
Correct.
Okay. So,
Unless we
And
change
we're
that
sure
official
we
day.
can provide that. My question is, can we even provide that?
Lupe, if people vote on hybrid, then it's the council's job to figure it out. And you take that into account when you decide if you're going to vote remote or hybrid.
Right.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor, that's been seconded, so I call for
Janie can do
Call
roll
the
call.
question.
call the question.
Sorry, who had a question?
So you're going to do a roll call and ask us if we want to vote for remote or hybrid.
Yeah, can I just make a last comment? I mean, I think this is an important point. Like the last meetings we had, it was in person. The live streaming was a nice to have, was an add-on, but that no longer meets the requirements. It never did.
Right.
No, we've never done hybrid.
Exactly.
And it would be risky to have a vote on hybrid as a possible outcome because we have less than 2 weeks to scramble. We don't know what the budget is. It takes time to acquire things and test things to make them work. And if we cannot support remote participation, full participation with public comments, we will be in violation of the guidelines. So for me, at this point, the only option we realistically have, not that we don't want to, but realistically and feasibility wise, I come from a tech background, so I always talk about feasibility studies, is really remote right now. I think
Point of order, I'm sorry.
This is time to analyze other options and costs or build some expertise from other districts. But that's consider that.
We've already called the question. I'm sorry. It's just we keep on going back to a debate and an argument. And
It's not a debate though, Len. That's why I got so
We're
confused because we discussed, everything we discussed was pretty much a consensus that we could not provide what is mandated. How are we voting?
Vote how you want to vote.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just have the vote, please.
Okay, I'm gonna do the roll call. So you get a choice. You choose remote only or you choose hybrid remote. Okay, Robin Broshi. Robin?
I vote for remote.
Okay. Kush,
I vote for remote.
Daniela,
No, don't push your luck.
I vote for remote.
Lupe,
Practice and then we'll.
As much as I would love a hybrid option, I vote for remote.
Robin Kelleher.
I vote for a hybrid.
Okay. Chen,
Remote.
Ben,
Remote.
Ushma,
Hybrid.
Janie, remote, Len,
Remote.
Lily,
Remote.
and Gabriella's not here. So we have 9 for remote only and 2 for hybrid and remote.
Thank you, Janie. All right. So that's decided. We're remote for the next few months through January. Chen, can you present your budget proposal?
I will share my screen.
Do you have the share screen option, or do I have to make you a host?
I do have it. I do have it. I'm just gonna
Okay.
find the right screen to share. Just bear with me. Yeah, okay. I'm confusing myself. Apologies. Okay. Can you all see this in sufficient size? Okay, so I just want to start off with, there's a few things here, different approach. Thanks to Ben for, reviewing last year's budget and the methodologies from last year and the spending that we had. We note that we have now $25,000 of the budget that's been increased. I'm not sure it was done mid-year or earlier in 2021. For the budget, there's a few assumptions. We already gone through the remotes. I don't think I'm going to go through that. But in essence, the 3 options I have are based on whether we voted for remote or in-person or hybrid. And my definition of in-person, I thought it was still an option. That's obviously not an option anymore. Another key item here is that for last year's budget, we put like $5,000 on a budget item called P-card. Well, P-card is actually like a payment method. It's like a credit card, it's a checkbook, it's an account, it's a bucket of where you put funds. So I took that out of our budget in terms of our planned spend and turned it into a, kind of a payment method. And we'll have a log of how that's like a petty cash or it's a credit card, right? And only, as I understand it from the from Central, that it's only the administrative assistant can use the P card. I think it's a control method. Unlike council members who can put something, spend some money, and then get reimbursed. Some of the rules on what the dollar amounts, what's the limits, still need to clarify. But that's kind of at the high level. The other thing I tried to do was to give us as much flexibility in what we need to spend by not getting too granular into the categories of spend at the high level, so that if we need to spend more on one subsection of a code, that we have the flexibility to change our priorities or decide we now no longer can do remote. We have to be in person, and that's going to reduce our cost potentially for Zoom licenses, for example. We don't be locked in for Zoom category. But I will show you the cost breakdowns. I think you've seen as I sent these out ahead of time. I think hopefully you had a chance to look through some of the pages where I'd go through the cost breakdowns. But I just try to keep it as high level as possible into the budget object codes, which is column B on here. We have supplies, postage, supplies, office refreshments, water. We have equipment, miscellaneous operating expenses, technology, software services, staff transportation, member expenses, and professional services. Those categories, can maybe those are high level categories. There might be certain standard category that Central uses as well. The codes have multiple categories, but if we keep to this, I think we have a way of, generalizing our spend to give us some flexibility. Now, if you look at column C, that's the budget for the virtual option, and D is in person, and E is hybrid. So we should just focus on the virtual option. And these are the costs I estimated based on a virtual option at the high level. And I can get it in more detail and what the assumptions are, and then see what your feedback is. Okay, so supplies, we're very, very minimal, $100 for postage if we even need to use that. Office refreshments, water. If it's remote, we'll have very, very little of this. Maybe it's something for the AA to spend to use for when he or she is working. For equipment, I anticipate some level of equipment in case people need a laptop for being remote, and I'm not, so that we don't need to assume that people have a working laptop to be a council member. And about the miscellaneous, so that's about 6,000 as I estimated it. Miscellaneous operating expenses, it's like 4,200. Technology software, because we're now using Zoom a lot more. There's going to be more spend in that area. That's like the top line item. Staff transportation, we probably still need to travel to do stuff, but I keep it as a low because we're not going to be traveling on site for at least the meetings. And member expenses, that's pretty set. That's our per diem based on set amounts for council members and a slightly higher amount for the president. And professional services, we had something budgeted last year, and I'm just, leaving a certain amount based on what we have left over. Lupe, you have a question?
Is there a difference in the staff transportation versus member expenses in transportation?
Yeah, that I'm not quite sure, like what's the past, but I think it's just.
That's the AA coming with
Yeah.
all of the stuff to our meeting as opposed to us.
Okay, so that's the very high level, and I wanted to just keep it there, and I'll show you the breakdown. Okay, does anybody have questions on the high level? If not, then I will continue. Okay, can you all see this? I assume everything is legible or large enough to see. This might be too much at this point. I'll just start on the left side of the sheet so we can see just a more. Okay, so I guess we all have nice screens at home. Okay, so when we go through and more detail from the what's in the first page, there's some rounding up that I do at the top level. But here, if we just look at the column B, it's the breakdowns by more detailed categorization. In the column C is the budget code that match that because they have multiple expenditure types based on the budget code. I give on column D a view of what we had put in from last year. So you get a comparison of what we did before. And then in column E, that's the virtual option. Okay. And so, we have technology software services as a big bucket, as a big item. We have things like domain registration, website hosting, the events calendar. And we also have a constant contact, which we do our outreach. The numbers I have for that, are based on expanding the number of people we try to reach through email. Maybe I'll expand it over here. Are you able to see the column I and to the right of that? Are you all be able to follow? I'm going to scroll over. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close it down a little bit. So just give you like a constant contact, give an example or give you more detailed breakdown. Constant contact, if we have only 500, can you see this now? Constant contact in column I. Can you see? No? Is it too small? I'll make it bigger.
Are you able to share the file that you shared with us as opposed to maybe in the spreadsheet format?
I gave it to you in the PDF format, so you should be able to see the same.
No, I'm looking, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking, I thought as far as your shared screen, if instead of showing your spreadsheet, show the PDF that you shared with us.
Good,
so that the public, for
suggestion.
the public to be able to see what you're talking about.
Okay. Let me just pull that up. Give me a second here. Oops. Let me change my shared screen. Start again. Okay, can you see this now? Is this better now to see? Is this better now? Can you see this now? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So if you look at the constant contact area, the section, because if we're going remote, we want to also and also based on the outreach, we're going to try to have put more budgeting to have more people on our constant contact email list so they can participate in a larger number. And we may also want to have that anyway in to grow our size. And it's a nominal spend. It's not so much to get to to 2,500 to 5,000 or 5,000 to 10,000 a number of contacts. Annual cost is about 1,100. So that's the constant contact. We have also the Wix Mailbox. Now the mailbox we've increased based on the idea that one, we want to be able to support multiple council members who have departed and also have a concept of retention for public records. I don't know what the requirements are for record retention for emails. So, the estimate is that we would increase the number of mailboxes that we pay for so that we don't have to delete them in the future as frequently until we get a better idea of what can we do for storage and retention and what the policies are for council emails. Okay, so that's why it went up to 35. The estimate's gone to $3,500. Okay, and a large item now is, yes, Robin, you have a question.
Yeah, I definitely see the merit of getting clarification of record retention. So I hope that sounds like a really good idea. I just want to be really careful that we're not letting that. I just don't think it's a good policy to let people that aren't members of the council have at CECD2.net email accounts. So I realize that's not a budget issue necessarily, but I just want to flag it and make sure that it's not like a courtesy that we're extending to people that have served on the council in the past.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that we want, if people are no longer a council member, they should be cut off. Their access should be cut off, but it's only for record retention and legal purposes.
Correct. That's my, and once we get clarification, if we get, for example, clarification that we don't have to save those, then we shouldn't be paying for more than what we're required.
Yes.
By, the number of members of the council and maybe a couple of extra info at and whatever.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And then to this point, Jennifer, would you be able to comment on the record retention requirements at this point? Or, if you don't know, it's okay. We can ask, in different areas of.
So I thought there was an email that went out. I would have to look for it saying that once somebody is off the council, their email goes, and that the record retention that is required by DOE employees is not the same as it is for the CEC. But I would have to look for that email, but we never in the past kept an email for somebody who was no longer on the CEC.
Okay, would you kindly forward that email if you can? You can find it. If we don't have a requirement, I don't think we need to spend the money on that. Okay, so we can keep this in place until we get a clarification, and can go to a much lower amount. Once we get that clarification. Good. So if I may, I'd like to proceed ahead onto the other items like Zoom and the assumptions behind that. So the Zoom, I think we had before a higher cost in the later parts of the year. So what was originally budgeted may not truly reflect that, because we went to webinars and other things and high numbers to support high numbers of participants. And I'll just show you the Zoom costs and the different licenses that we've seen. So because we're now in a virtual mode, we've gone up to like over 500 even participants at the peak, that I've seen. So if you look at the business package, the second section of Zoom cost breakdown, if we're assuming that the business package starts at, you have a minimum requirement of 10 licenses. Okay, but what that gives you is that you have ability to host 300 participants. And I compared the cost at a previous version of the spreadsheet with using the Pro option in order to, and using the lower cost version, and using the webinar options and large meeting add-ons and so forth. The sweet spot was the cost would equalize at about 7 Pro package licenses to have the similar amount of storage, and the storage options have to be increased. And that if we just use the business package for 10 licenses, it would give us at least 300 for every meeting, because we also have committees that may meet simultaneously. We don't want to shortchange ourselves from having that flexibility. And so when you added it all up, if I went to 7 Pro meeting accounts versus 10 business package accounts to support longer meetings where we need more storage for archiving, for playback, potentially, then the business package option becomes the same cost. If we have 7 Pro Zoom meeting licenses to support the committees. So that's what I use as a high level estimate for our Zoom cost. So that's how I got that. Okay, so that's where we get the about $9,500, $9,600 for the technology and software services. For the equipment, I have it for $6,000. This is a guesstimate based on the need for laptops, particularly for members or the AA to have a laptop to join. Not making any assumptions that people should foot the bill for if they don't have the money to buy a laptop, and I just use 1,000 as a rounding an average price. I mean, Chromebooks probably are cheaper, but when you add it all up, all the options, then gives us like a high level number to work with. So hence that's the equipment. The other supplies and miscellaneous. I mean, supplies is a nominal one. Like I said, office supplies, we probably have very few. The postage is very low. It's about $600. Miscellaneous operating expenses. Now this is a very gray category, so I'm not quite sure what we use what we use to spend. And I think special events, if we even if we're virtual, I think we probably should have some type of special events where we need to get a venue or have people come in, pay for some costs for them to come. This is kind of a little bit of flexible funding for things we need to spend later on if we define that, okay, if we need to. And based on the budget policy, if we don't spend the money, we lose it. So I'm trying to get our budget to be the most flexible as possible. Staff transportation, as we said, we will probably have less transportation for this purpose, but transportation costs can be covered by the miscellaneous and other, in that category. And member expenses, like I said, the members, it's about $1,500 altogether per month, annually. And then business cards, I'm just allotting $500. People still want to get business cards. And that takes us to about $2,075. Professional services, I think previous years we wanted maybe some consulting services or other services. So I left that at $2,000 to keep us at a flexible amount to spend if we need to. So that brings us to $25,000 for virtual. Now I don't, now that we've decided it's only virtual and my definition of in-person is, it's not feasible and hybrid is quite different, then this is, the virtual is, what we voted on. This is the what I have at a high level. So I welcome your comments. I mean, things can be changed, assumptions could be different, or other areas of spend that you think is needed that we can modify this. And you do that, on the spreadsheet here, and to fit it into the 25,000 spend. But this is what I have. And in the further pages, like I said, I wanted to track on page 4, the member reimbursement tracking that we should be doing, and then also the P card account tracker. That if we, once we have an AA, then we can see what we want to put into that. So let's say if we want to get certain types of spend supplies, then we allocate the money for that and say this is what we want, and that's what we're going to put into the P card through the system. There's a system called FAMIS, I think Jennifer might know better than me, but that's and it's supposed to be only the AA can use the P card anyway. So once we have someone on board, we can put that into play. So that's what I have. Questions, comments, and if you have differences of views on where we should be spending, I'll just get it back to the first page.
Thank you, Chen. I just wanted to make one point. Since I was treasurer last year, if there's an estimate, because these are all kind of estimates on our future spending, if there's anything that does change, we have in March, we do a modification. So, and
That's right. Yep.
yeah, so we're not holding you to this 100%. Any comments for Chen? Thank you. This was, by the way, this was a lot of work. Thank you for putting this together.
I want to make a motion to approve the budget with the virtual option.
I second that. Janie, can you take a vote?
Okay. Robin Broshi,
I approve the budget.
Kush,
I approve. Thank Chen for his work and point out he's put it in far more detail than most PTAs with larger budgets do.
okay. Daniela,
Approve.
Lupe,
She may have dropped. She's not on the screen, is she?
Okay, I'll come back to her.
I saw her in a waiting room.
Oh, she raised her hand. Lupe, are you on, Lupe?
She's raising her hand.
Oh, there you are.
Muted.
Great. Yes. Okay. Robin Kelleher,
I approve.
Jen,
Approved. Agreed.
Ben,
Approve.
Ushma,
Approve.
I approve. Len,
Approve.
Lily.
Approve.
Okay, it is unanimous.
Can I just make a point of order here? Because we just made a motion. I know Robin made a motion before. I know we're going back to what we did before, but Robin made a motion related to the last topic that we were discussing. And I believe it was seconded. That needs to be withdrawn because it's still out there. Robin, are you going to withdraw your motion? That was the motion that you made, that it be a remote option. Jennifer, am I right? I mean, is that?
Yes, you're correct. There was a motion on the table. It needs to be technically, according to Robert's rules, be withdrawn.
Are you talking about me, Robin Broshi?
Yes, yes. you
Yeah,
made the
sure,
motion
I
before.
withdraw. Also, can we make Lupe a co-host again?
Thank you. They just did. I was unable to unmute myself, you guys, but I do approve the budget.
Okay, so Robin withdrew that motion just for the minutes. Thanks.
Thank you, Lupe. I got that.
Thank you, Len, for pointing it out.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chen. That was very helpful. And the next line item is that on the agenda is review the CECD2 resolutions. Not to review it, but on our website now, if you go to the resolutions tab on the menu there, you will now see that there's on the first level down on the tab, you'll see there's a browse all CECD2 resolutions broken down by categories. I placed it there to make it a little more friendly for parents or whoever's visiting the website to see what resolutions we have that we have passed this year. We still have the folder sections, so that remains unchanged. But now we have another. We have the ability to look at resolutions all in one clear space, and also share the web page if you'd like with your networks. Does anyone have any questions about that? Lupe? You have your hand raised? I'll make her a co-host. I think you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, yes, now I'm unable to unmute myself. Thank you so much.
Do you have two accounts, by the way?
know-
Because you were on twice.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm on my phone and my laptop. I'm feeding my son, so I am not in the area where my laptop is anymore, but I hope that's not a problem. Okay. I know I emailed you stating that the agendas are just as far as August was concerned, it no longer has the resolutions there. And that is typically, I know as a parent, how I used to go back and find resolutions passed, regardless if they passed or not. I do like the folder that you've created for all past resolutions. You're updating on those. But I do think that we should keep, as history has and CECD2, the agendas in the past have always still had the resolutions readily available for parents to be able to look them up. So if you get a chance to just be able to re-upload those.
I have it listed on under agenda item 12. So I'll when we get to that, I'll discuss the agenda format that you brought up. I just want to keep moving on so we cover all the points. So there have been some requests, unless there's another issue specific to the webpage that we can now forward with the resolutions. I'd like to move on to agenda item 7, which is requests for council correspondences. Today we received a few emails. Daniela, can you had a correspondence letter that you wanted to that you shared, if you can speak to it.
I sent a letter today to all council members. It's a letter for the mayor and the chancellor just to learn more about the Test to Stay program that some other states, countries, and municipalities are using. I don't know if you all saw, but apparently the mayor said last week at a radio show that he had never heard of the Test to Stay program. And we are all learning how to better run our schools during this pandemic. And it seems that many states are adopting the Test to Stay as a way to avoid unnecessary quarantines with students that have been considered close contact. So we already passed a resolution to change the regulations on what is considered close contact. Very fortunate the DOE changed that regulation, but there are still going to be students who are considered close contacts and who would have to quarantine. And so the Test to Stay would allow the students to get a test, and if they get a negative test, they would be allowed back to school before the quarantine time. And the letter is just asking for engagement and for the city and for the DOE to learn about these programs and see if it is a possibility for us to, again, avoid more unnecessary missing days of students in quarantine.
Ushma, I believe your hand was raised first.
Thanks, Ben. Can I just request, please? I've already mentioned I'm a working parent. I can't review this stuff in 10 minutes before a meeting. I know, Daniela, you sent yours earlier. I see the time urgency on some of these things, so I understand why there's a need or a desire on the behalf of many to issue letters. But I fret about us as a council moving forward via letters as opposed to resolutions. So I'd very much like for us to consider not doing this. And if you have an opinion that you want to voice, gather signatures, but it doesn't necessarily always need to be on a CEC letterhead on these different things. I haven't actually contemplated many of the issues that have come up because I'm trying to pay attention. Daniela, I appreciated that and can say I agree. Some of the other letters I haven't, I will appreciate hearing from both Kaushik and Chen on those, but I'd also just like us to please consider why all of a sudden we're proliferating in this other mechanism and whether or not it's appropriate.
Lupe, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have one question for Daniela, but before I even ask that, I do agree in regards to, I thought that this was maybe a matter that we should include the public's feedback. And I think our next calendar meeting does a lot. It's not that far away. The question I have for Daniela may even support the need to wait to make this a resolution is because can you clarify the difference between the already existing testing out option that quarantine children have that they can test out on the, I believe it's between 3 and 5 days of being quarantined, they are able to actually test. And if they test negative, I believe, and again, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, from the DOE, Jennifer, Superintendent Kelly, that I believe that the kids are already able to do this. So I'm just wondering, is this any way different from what the already existing policy is?
I will say the policy as it stands right now is that if a class is quarantined or individual children are quarantined, then they can take a test on the 5th day of their quarantine and then return. And I've seen it 2 different places, one on the 7th day, and I just saw something today on the 8th day. I had thought it was on the 7th day. So I'll get clarification on that. But yes, they can return before the 10 days is up.
If they don't have any symptoms, if you have a symptom, regardless, you must quarantine. I'm basing it on personal experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Test and trace follows you. They'll call you 1,000 times a day.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Daniela, did you want to respond?
Yeah, so to Ushma's point, I am feeling a lot of urgency because I have parents emailing me and asking me what is the close contact policy if my kid is on the bus with somebody. And so I do think that every single day that we can avoid unnecessary children missing school, I think it's very important. And that was my intention with the letter. This is not advocating for one specifically change, but just for engagement and for discussion and for us to really make sure that we are up to date with the latest protocols, the best protocols, the latest on how schools are run. I think we're all, as I said, I think we're all learning because nobody has done this before. And so that's why I do think that the letter is appropriate. It's just asking for engagement and information and more discussion in this topic. My understanding is that the students had to stay for 10 days. And in particular, if you are considered close contact, then, you did not have a chance to come back earlier. So if that is the case, that there's already an option, then I think that my concern has been address, and I can definitely answer some of the parents who sent me about those policies.
Point of clarification, it's only for vaccinated people. The 3 to 5 days is for vaccinated.
Oh, okay. So that's So yeah, so if an elementary student who is not eligible to vaccinate,
Correct.
if they're close contact, they do not have the option to come back before the full quarantine. And if they are considered close contact, they should have the option to test. And if they have a negative test, I believe go back. So that is exactly. I follow Jennifer and Callum because I know they are very close to this guidance. But my understanding is that there was not an option for them to come back. And I did have a parent reach out to me about a child being considered close contact because of bus.
Jennifer was right about the students who are vaccinated. For students who are unvaccinated, I just looked at it. So it's after this, they can take a test on the 5th day. This is an unvaccinated student. They can take a test on the 5th day, and then they can return to school after the 7th day, which would be the 8th day. That's when they can return to school. And this is something that is a relatively new change. That rule had previously applied just to middle school age kids. And so this is now for unvaccinated students, including elementary school age kids.
So just to clarify, so even if a student has a negative test, that student still has to miss 2 or 3 days, according to that, because even with a negative test, that student cannot go back to school for a couple of days.
Right, they can go back to school a couple of days early.
Robin Brocia, you had your hand raised.
Hey there, yeah. I mostly wanted to echo Ushma's concerns about the short turnaround time on the letters. So it's not specifically about Daniela's letter, which the content, I did have time to read it, and I didn't, for the most part, find objectionable. But I didn't mention when we were doing our intros, but for better and worse, I've been on the council 7 years, I think. We've never, I think maybe I've seen more letters since like July than I've seen since, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but letters were like really in extraordinary circumstances when something had to be communicated urgently. And I do think, and it doesn't mean that everything we did before was right and we can't reimagine how we run our CEC. But I think that there's, the reason there's rules about resolutions have to do with transparency and making sure the public has had an opportunity to see what we're weighing in on. And, this idea of like circulating a letter just minutes before a meeting or even hours before a meeting does feel a little bit like an end run around that, the spirit of the kind of public input and stuff that to us seems unobjectionable, like, more testing. Sure. Yeah. Like that's awesome. And I why not? But you don't, the 10 of us shouldn't be in the position of necessarily adjudicating what seems like an obvious no-brainer and what really needs to give the public an opportunity to weigh in on. So again, like, I don't know that any rules have been violated, and we could sign off on all 3 letters tonight and that would be fine. Like, I don't think that would be in violation of any chancellor's regulations or any open meetings laws, because like letters are considered sort of vague. So it's not about, calling people out for breaking rules, but just kind of being judicious about when we utilize this tool. And so that's about all the letters. And Lupe asked that there are 3 letters. One letter came in just before the meeting and 1 letter came in during the meeting. And then that being said, I thought I had another fleeting thought, but really those were my main pieces, which is that, yes, we can do letters. Let's be very, very judicious about when we employ a letter versus a resolution. And even when we are doing a letter, let's give each other a little more notice in advance before we have to weigh in on it. And I earnestly am saying this independent of the content of any of the letters tonight.
Thank you, Robin. We've had, the council has had one letter already done by, put forward by Lupe Hernandez that we had, I believe in August. And as a council, we worked hard to get that out in a timely manner because it did impact school openings. This letter that Daniela has pushed forward is, something on topics that we've discussed, debated. The public has also weighed in on similar topics. And so it's not like this is a new item. And I think it's very timely since just today or yesterday, you heard in the news that the UFT is asking teachers to photograph and document when students are violating the three feet social distancing or physical distancing, and I believe the or poor mask discipline. So I think this letter speaks to it, and I don't see the harm in a letter that says, DOA here, look, some other states are doing something very novel and maybe beneficial and to keeping schools open and students attending school. So are there any other council members that would like to weigh in? Yes, Robin Kelleher. Oh, you're muted.
I'll be brief because I want us to move on and get to the important part of the meeting. While I appreciate the experience, Robin, that you've had on the CEC, I think many of us have also been involved in these meetings and have watched the meetings, and we are all giving up our personal time to be here. So I ask that we all are compassionate with each other and understand that we all have very, very busy days, and we're working very hard for the children and the families that we represent. The years of experience that we've all witnessed or been part of, we're part of a different time. As we spoke about earlier, the need for hybrid or remote or not showing cameras and being sensitive to backgrounds. These are all conversations that you guys didn't have. You folks didn't have, in the years past. And I think we need to remember that we're not here to argue with each other, but we're here to support the children. And as it stands now, since we don't have remote options for kids at home, we really need them to be in school. I mean, we can all agree that school is the safest place for children. And I think, just to address Daniela's letter, this could not be more timely, and we don't have 2 weeks to spare. We're talking about thousands and thousands of missed days for children. I mean, we shouldn't be arguing about, there's our families who also have work days and can't be at home with their children and can't help their children learn. And what about, they've put their faith into us that we can make the best decisions for those kids. So rather than argue about whether or not we've had a chance to read the letters, I understand that. I mean, we're all exhausted. I mean, we are all tired and doing more than we probably can handle. But it is our job to be doing this, and we raised our hands for this. And I think that we need to remember that this is a changing time. So yes, in the past, we probably, I'm guessing, didn't have all these letters, but this is a very different time. I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but the letter that I'm part of with Kaushik is extremely time sensitive, since our mayor announced that he will be announcing at any second the future of Gifted and Talented, and no parents have been involved. There's been no input. So I don't think we have the luxury always of putting things off and writing resolutions. And I ask that we appreciate the time that's gone into these letters, and that we really work together to really focus on the children, and not get into past and semantics and who has more work or who has less work. Or we're all swamped, and we're all just, I think we need to really focus on what's important. So that's all I have to say.
Chen, you had you had sent a correspondence too. Would you like to discuss that, and then we'll?
I had my hand up.
Yeah, we'll after his letter, we'll discuss some more. And
I haven't even. Okay.
It.
I actually wanted to just respond to some of the comments. You know, I agree with the idea that we should give each other the time enough as much as possible to read through the resolutions or the letters, because, you know, if people don't have a chance to read through your letters or resolutions before a vote or decision, makes them less likely to support it. I mean, it's just kind of common sense. You want the most support. But I think at the same time, we should just understand that there are things that people are working on and just the time. And I think, you know, we're a new council together, so hopefully we can give each other grace, you know, and I'll try to improve on that, you know, without 10 minutes. But I think there's certain, you know, urgency, especially on the test to stay and the GMT, and you know, kind of segue into my letter. I think, you know, this letter has been long overdue, and unfortunately, you know, it's taken a while to kind of put it together. It also piggybacks on the GMT resolution. You know, I don't want to. Should I share my screen and show the letter? Is that something we should do? Let me share my screen. Here's the beginning second here. Okay, can you see the screen? Okay, silence means you can see it. Okay, so.
Unfortunately, I can't, Chen, and I never read it. I don't know if I have to motion to postpone this to our next meeting.
You sent the letter at 6:29 p.m.
This is not.
This is outrageous.
This is not decorum. This is not Robert's rules. This is not how I thought the first meeting we decided that we weren't going to do this again.
And
we would circulate
and you know
things.
what? We're allowed to be angry about this, and I'm not going to be put in a corner and told that, like, oh, we're going to be polite and civil, and that's what makes us better than the last council. No, anger is appropriate when you're just like outrageously doing an end run around having any input from the council. Like, we're going to talk about a letter that you shared with us a minute before the meeting was supposed to begin. And then next on the agenda is a letter from an hour and 24 minutes after the meeting began. Like, that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to participate in the rest of the meeting, but then you cannot whine about what happened in the last term and how you felt your voices were silenced. Because if you really felt your voices were silenced, you would be making every effort to include people you think are disagreeing with you rather than trying to settle scores. And excluding people from participating in this shows that you weren't mad about what happened last session because there was some higher principle. It shows you're mad because it was your voice that was being silenced. You would be better than who you think I am. And instead, you are lowering yourself to who you think I am. And I'm not stipulating that's who I am, but that is the behavior I'm seeing. This is completely out of order. Go ahead and have the rest of your meeting now.
Well, we're here to discuss the letter. You can give your opinion. You know.
I haven't had a chance to read either of the last two letters that were sent. I read Daniela's, I had my question. I do think that the resolution that was passed actually upholds the urgency that was discussed in that letter. But as far as your letter you're bringing forth now, and I didn't see the third, I didn't even know there was a third letter. This is just not good practice. This is just not good practice. I think we can do better. We want to do better. That's what I keep hearing everyone saying on this call. Let's do better. I also think it's important that these things be able to be discussed by the public, especially if we're going to be voting on them. Letters don't typically, we can decide whether we want to sign on to a letter. And that's what I proposed back in July. And it was due to a strength, not just from reopening, it had to do with registration of Office of Pupil Transportation with regarding students with disabilities and making sure that schools that didn't have parent coordinators were able to register students in order for them to be provided transportation to get to and from school. And it wasn't a vote. It was literally given to you guys with ample amount of time. And yes, I asked it was time sensitive, but I gave you guys, we worked on that letter for at least a week and a half. And even then took some revisions to bring forth a letter you want voted upon in a matter of less than minutes or an hour into our meeting is not good practice. Point period blank. I don't think.
Lupe, you've made your point. This is a working business meeting. This is where you can discuss these issues. Let Chen, he has the floor. Let him complete what he's wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, I did motion to postpone these letters to a calendar meeting where the public can be heard in regards. And it gives us as a council time to review them thoroughly.
This is a working business meeting. He's allowed to present a letter and discuss. Thank you, Chen.
Excuse me, my son's calling me. Hello?
I think letters should also be discussed individually.
I'm sorry, point of order.
Hello, hey, how you doing? Okay.
Point of order, there was just a motion made. Is it being seconded?
I just want to ask if Kaushik, did you share your letter with others other than Robin, Lupe, and I in advance of the meeting and just sent it to us in the middle of the meeting? Was that something that others had seen before we did?
Yes, some others have seen and worked on it.
Okay, I would just really like to then underscore what Robin said about decorum. If you thought that the three of us weren't going to agree to it, maybe the most respectful thing to have done would have been to share it with us at an early stage rather than in the middle of the meeting. And
I don't disagree with you. I also think it boosts. I'm sorry. I'll let you finish.
Raised for a long time, and I've been waiting patiently. So if we can please, a couple of things. So first of all, Lupe sent a letter that she has worked with other members some time ago, and we didn't vote. There hasn't been any resolution or discussion on that letter, and we all made the judgment if we want to sign the letter or not. We are putting these letters, and everybody can use their judgment. If you need 24 hours to review the letter, I am open to that. I am also working parent, and I agree with Bushman that we should have certain type of protocol. But there is a precedent just in the last few months. There was an issue that Lupe felt very urgently about. She sent to us, and as she just said, she worked on that letter before. And so I think that we can just discuss the letters. People who feel like they want to sign, they sign. If you don't want to put your name, you don't put your name on. But these are issues that are very urgent for some parents here and for some parents in our district. And it's not something that can wait until our next meeting because the mayor is about to announce things. And, you know, there are parents who are missing school days because their kids are considered close contacts. And so we're having the discussion. We have had several public discussions about these topics, and you can sign the letter or not. And again, there has been a letter before that there was no public discussion, no resolution, and we all made the judgment if we want to sign or not. And so I don't know why now we cannot have the same process that was just used a couple of weeks ago with Lupe's letter.
Okay, point of order. I'm sorry. There was a motion that was made to postpone consideration of this, I guess the letter. I mean, that's, or did someone second that motion? If someone
Robin said she's unable to mute herself or chat for some reason. I think she's no longer a co-host. If someone can make her a co-host again.
If someone second that motion, then we need to debate that and then we need to vote on it. But if someone didn't second the motion.
Can someone co-host Robin Broshi, please? Thank you.
I second Lupe's motion.
Okay, so now there's a motion that's been made. And now there's a motion, so there should be debate on the motion whether or not to table, or not to table, but to postpone consideration of the letters. We need to discuss that, and then we need to vote on that.
All right. Kush, you wanted to discuss this?
I had my hand up first.
Go ahead. And I, at the same time, also apologize for cutting off Ushma previously, if she wants to finish as well. Happy to go third.
Robin?
Go ahead, Robin.
Thank you. So, I mean, I think I made my point very clearly that it's not about the content of these letters, because I have mixed opinions about the merits of these letters. I object to the way this council is putting these issues forward. And honestly, like, if it's been made very clear in multiple public meetings that I have this like red letter hypocrite on me, and that's fine. That's your prerogative to think I'm a hypocrite. But if you think hypocrite is a negative label, then look at your own behavior. Look at what your principles are. Look at the complaints you made about the prior council and ask yourself, is my behavior tonight, is my support of letters that were sent a couple hours, 1 minute, negative 1 hour and 20 minutes into a meeting, consistent with my values? Or is it about getting my opinion forward, something that I thought Robin Broshi was doing unfairly, and I want my turn now? And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, again, I'm going to stipulate approving these letters is within our power. Okay. But I just want you to reflect on the weight you give to character judgments about members of this council and what that says about them and how you characterize them as individuals, and that you're going to behave in the same way that you thought was so terrible because I don't know. I don't know why I get to be the hypocrite and you guys are somehow rising above it, even though you're doing the exact things that really sincerely frustrated you in the prior council. I guarantee you, we all know everything we do is ceremonial. We have to be extraordinarily judicious about when we write a letter. So now we're going to write 3 letters tonight that aren't resolutions. And if you think electeds, if you think the chancellor is going to take these letters and give them any weight, you don't understand where our power comes from. Our power comes from our relationships and our credibility. And regardless of what you think of me personally, like, these are folks that you build that credibility over time, and you don't build it by shooting off a bunch of letters that now is on the record that like people on the council didn't even get to see beforehand. And it's just going to be yelling at the wind. I'm done.
Ushman, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Ben. I would like to co-sign something that Daniela just suggested, which is that when council members put forward a letter, that all members of the council be given 24 hours to read and weigh in on whether or not they would like to sign such a letter. I think that is probably the fairest method going forward for everyone to determine whether or not they would like to co-sign on such a letter. And if there is a majority, then it can go out on CEC letterhead. But as has been the case in the past, when there is not a majority, a letter still went out just over the signature of those who agreed to sign it. Sorry, one last thing. I would suggest perhaps Len, as chair of the bylaws committee, consider whether or not this is a protocol that should be revisited and specifically commented on within the bylaws.
Len, do you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think we're, I definitely think that's a great idea. I just want to say that there's a motion that was made. I'm not trying to be a little stickler here, but there was a motion that was made. The motion was to postpone the consideration of these letters. We're debating that right now, but I'm going to move the question, which means that we're going to vote on whether or not to end the debate now. If you guys want to continue to debate it, then you can object to the motion. We just have to do this in some kind of order. So the issue that we really have before us right now is, do we want to adjourn, or the discussion of these letters to another point? That's something we need to vote on. And then I'm going to move the previous question, which means we have another motion, or we have to decide whether or not we're going to end the debate on this particular issue of whether or not we're going to postpone the discussion of the letters. I know this is getting a little complicated. If someone wants to second my motion to move the previous question, then we can vote on ending the debate. If not, then we are debating the issue of whether or not we're going to postpone discussion of the letters. Does that make sense? I mean, I know this is getting a little complicated, but we're not really following any order. Everyone's kind of jumping around here, and it's kind of getting. I understand everyone's point, and Ushma, I'm not debating the issues here, but the question is, are we going to discuss this at another time? And that was a motion that was made by Robin, and that was, or was seconded by Robin, and that was made by someone that was out there. I don't remember who it was. I apologize.
Lupe. Her name is Lupe Hernandez. And
I
she
know.
made a motion.
Okay, I know Lupe's name. I just didn't know who it was, that whether it was Ushma or not. So
Right, because they're all the same, right, Len?
Robin, that's really unfair, and that's quite frankly very rude. And I would like an apology for that, because that really is just rude.
No.
Okay.
Len, Janie had her hand up. We're still discussing the motion. Janie,
I had my hand up too, but go ahead.
Yeah. Janie.
I'm new to the CEC, and what happened in the past is in the past. Can we not talk about the past? I got these resolutions at the same time everybody else did. I was dealing with some other issues and had a chance to look at them, kind of briefly. And if you're not comfortable with them, don't sign them. If you don't feel you have enough time to digest them, don't sign them. If what you read you're comfortable with, put your name on it. I don't it's very straightforward. You guys, I don't you're making all this stuff personal, and it's not personal. Everybody has a different sense of how urgent this is. You may or may not agree with the sense of urgency. If you don't agree with it, don't sign it.
Kush, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I'd like to point out, Robin, this really has nothing to do with you. I haven't really thought much about you, particularly since you chose not to attend the last two meetings. I object to.
I didn't choose not to
attend
the last two meetings, Kashuk. They were excused absences for illness. You have the floor, but you cannot mischaracterize my absences.
How I feel nonetheless. And it has nothing to do with you, as I said. I object to the way the mayor and the chancellor do business. My letter happens to be, that I wrote with Robin, happens to be, first of all, it's in support of a resolution that we already passed. Second of all, more than half the letter recycles that resolution. And the reason why I bring up the fact that you weren't at those two meetings is because you would have known that if you were at the August meeting. or read the resolution.
So then why do we need a letter that says what we already wrote in a resolution?
Because there are some additional points made thereafter, which you can choose. Again, I will support Janie's comment. You can, if you're not comfortable with it, don't sign it. Ushma, I apologize for how late it came. I was modifying it so that it might be more palatable to views that I anticipated you, Lupe, and Robin might have expressed based on my year and a half worth of watching you guys on video. If that isn't agreeable to you, I apologize. I thought it is I think a less objectionable letter than my first draft. If you don't appreciate that effort, it was done in good faith. I still stand by the original points that it largely recycles a lot of points, and it does address a comment that the mayor made on Friday. I wish I had more time to spend on this. In fact, today is my birthday. I spent a significant amount of today working on this. I did what I could in the best interest of what I think is for our families. I agree with Robin Kelleher's point that we live at very different times. I wish we had more time to debate this. I wish we had more time to write things days in advance. We don't. This is how we're getting things on the fly from UFT, from the mayor, from the chancellor, from our principals, from our district, from higher levels of the DOE. I don't think they operate in good faith. I am doing my best to respond in as good a faith as possible, but with the urgency and the interests of our parents in mind. If you don't like it, don't vote for it.
I'd like to just say one more thing, unless, I don't know if there's anyone else's hands
I
up.
have a turn to speak.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Thank you, Lupe. It is not ideal. I admit that. But it's not out of the rules. If you show me it's against the rules, I'll wait. And it is in good faith. And it's to my detriment if I rush things, not have enough people read what I had to say. It's to my risk and my cost. So there, I put it out there. Let me read it. And let's discuss it. At least my letter and all the letters, right? And this is the purpose of the letters, to get it out. Is Robin still on? And Robin, I refuse to be lectured by you, someone who disparaged parents on social media after their comments in a public meeting at the CEC. You have no standing or moral ground to lecture anyone on what is the moral authority, what is the right thing to do. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to discuss these letters. Yes, Lupe?
Okay, thank you. Again, this motion is in regards to the fact that this came. I haven't seen the content of 2 of the 3 letters, so I can't speak on the merit of it. I don't know what it's about, so it's not personal for me. This has nothing to do with how you may feel about one person or another. I think what you said about Robin, a lot of people could say the very same thing about your guys' behavior, but let's move forward because, again, I just think that
We're not all the same. Remember the comment where stop with this. You guys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Don't gaslight her.
Let's be respectful.
Please,
okay?
I am being respectful.
Yeah, we're all council members here discussing. Please refer to council members as council members, please. Thank you.
And I think that at the very least, council members should have had this information prior to the meeting starting. I was ready to discuss Daniela's and I think that was appropriate. However, the 2 that came in, I just don't think that it's appropriate for us to have that discussion. If we can read it, if via email, electronically, we can decide but the motion at hand right now is just to postpone at least the ones that, they came in too soon.
What is your motion so we can vote on it again?
My motion is to postpone as far as voting on any of the letters. because-
Okay, fine.
Yes.
And Robin Broche had seconded. Janie, you had your hand up raised, I saw before. I don't know if you wanted to say something, otherwise.
No, I put it down.
Okay. Can we vote on this motion?
So voting to postpone, are we postponing all the letters or just the 2 later letters? Just to be clear.
She said all the letters.
Okay, so we're voting to postpone all the letters.
Can I
Robin
ask
Broche-
if, sorry,
sorry.
just 1 second. Can I ask if the clarification is that we're postponing the discussion of them, or are we giving everyone an opportunity to just email whether or not we want to support in the individual letter? I'm sorry, I want clarification on what I'm voting on.
As I understand it, she said, Councilmember Lupe said to postpone all the letters. And it's an up or down vote on whether to postpone it or not, the discussion.
I'm willing to amend if people, like I said, if people want to put in writing that you support, then that's fine. But at this time we've wasted a lot of time as it is on this agenda. I just didn't think it was fair to have this as an agenda bringing forth so late in the game.
We have a motion and it was seconded and we're going to vote. And if, depending upon the vote, we will discuss whether or not discuss these letters or not. So I think we should move forward.
Okay, so the vote is to postpone all letters. It's either yay or nay. Robin Broche.
Yay.
Kaushik Das.
I'm sorry, a yay is to postpone?
Yes.
I do not vote to postpone.
Okay. Daniela.
No.
Lupe.
Yay.
Robin Kelleher.
No.
Chen.
No.
Ben Morden.
No.
Ushma.
Yes.
Janie, no. Len.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Lily.
No.
Okay. So we have 7 no's to postpone. We have 3 yeses to postpone and 1 abstain.
Thank you, Janie. Chen, you were going to discuss your letter.
Give me a second here. I had it up. Yeah, so this is a letter to support Asian students and families. I'll just read it. Dear Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Porter, we, the members of Community Education Council for District 2, are writing to demand equal opportunities, equal treatment, and respect for Asian students and their families. We call upon Chancellor Porter to publicly apologize for her hurtful and racially inflammatory statements that other Asian students in her tweet on April 29th, 2021 about the SHISHAT results. Emphasis added, quote, the continued use of the specialized high school admissions test will produce the same unacceptable results over and over again. And it's far past the time for our students to be fairly represented in these schools. We call upon the DOE to not use racial balancing in school admissions that is designed to lower Asian student enrollment to academically high-performing programs in schools such as G&T and academically screened middle and high schools. We call upon the mayor, the chancellor, and the entire DOE leadership to end the DOE culture of vilifying Asian students and their families with the false insinuation that there are too many Asians and they have special advantages or use unfair and secret tricks to gain access to education opportunities, when in fact, they have had to overcome poverty, language and cultural barriers, and outright racial discrimination. This culture was at its ugliest when former Chancellor Richard Carranza said publicly that he doesn't, quote, doesn't buy into the narrative that any one ethnic group owns admission to these schools, unquote. And that culture hasn't changed since. This vilification and othering of Asians stir resentment that have led to anti-Asian violence and murders on the streets and subways of New York City, with anti-Asian hate crimes exploding with a 900% jump between 2019 and 20, and a 295% increase in the first half of 2021 alone compared with the entirety of 2020. Therefore, it is imperative that this anti-Asian ethos at the DOE must stop. Instead, the mayor and chancellor need to focus on improving the quality of education for all students. Asians in New York City have high poverty rates when compared to other racial groups. Many are also recent immigrants and speak a language other than English at home. Many have migrated from home countries fleeing poverty, oppressive governments, and lack of educational and economic opportunities. After arriving in the United States, immigrant parents lack English language skills and/or educational qualifications and take menial and often below minimum wage jobs to support their families while facing racial animosity and discrimination. Despite all this, through prioritizing academics and making tough family decisions on what little of their savings to invest in on their children's education, a majority of Asian students have achieved academic success, as shown on New York State math and ELA exams. Asian students make up 16.5% of all public school students and 22% of District 2 students. Yet they account for 40% of G&T students across all G&T programs, a high percentage of academically screened middle and high schools, and over 60% of all STEM-focused specialized high schools after taking objective standardized tests and assessments where race, ethnicity, gender, income, language skills, or family connections are not considered. In short, Asian students deserve to be considered chance supporters, our students. Asian students' successes in education attainment should be more than just acceptable. It should be celebrated. Indeed, Mayor de Blasio, Chancellor Porter, and DOE leadership should praise the tenacity and outcomes of Asian students and families and hold them as models that all students and families can emulate. At the same time, we implore the DOE to improve the quality of education and expand access to high quality education in all schools and districts so that all students, regardless of their race, ethnicity, family income, or background, have a chance to succeed academically. Sincerely, Chen Kwok. I can take questions.
Thank you, Chen. Ushma has a question. Yes.
I just want to reiterate what I said in the chat, especially because I'm not sure if it gets shown up on the live stream, that it's unlikely that I'm going to sign on to this letter. So I would just ask if it would be possible to change the wording on any of these letters that are going to get discussed and very likely sent out in the next day or two, or the next day, that the opening reflects that it's the undersigned members and not the entire council that is agreeing to these things.
Yeah, I guess the revision would be to be the undersigned if not everyone agrees. And I would accept that.
I would just, like for, I'm trying not to just make this move based on principle, but it's hard not to, that when we don't have 24 hours to look at these things, consider the issues that, I might be voting in a certain way, whether or not I agree with the letter. And so for this purpose, if that is not the way that we're going to proceed, which it sounds like based on the vote that we just had, then these letters cannot reflect that it's the opinion of the entire CEC. So it's got to, like, the opening sentences have got to reflect that it is the undersigned members of the CECD2, not the entire council.
Daniela, you had your hand raised.
Yes, this is going to be my last comment. I know it's very late. I just want to point two things. When Luke sent her letter a few weeks ago, and she said it was urgent, nobody had 24 hours, and nobody doubted her intention that she was really advocating for special education students. We all gave her, the grace that we should all give all council members here, that we are here volunteering our precious time because we believe in these issues. And so I find very concerning that now, when we are trying to raise issues that we consider urgent, there has been some insinuations that are for other reasons. I totally understand the struggle of being a working parent. And so I am totally fine with giving it to 11:20 a.m. tomorrow. If anybody needs more time to review my letter, and then we can send tomorrow. And then we don't need to, I believe, use the language that you were saying, Yushma, because again, we did not use the same protocol with Lupa's letter. A few weeks ago, we all, follow her guidance on this issue that she's very passionate about. And we also feel very passionate about these issues, and we also feel the urgency. And let's give 24 hours, but then let's, whoever signs, whoever doesn't feel like signing, doesn't sign.
May I respond just because she pointed out something that I did 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago?
Janie had her hand up, and then you're up after that. Okay. Janie?
I have a question. I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into things, but would it be helpful if we, I'm not saying I want to make a motion, but if we made a motion to give everybody 24 hours, and if we all agree on that, then let people present, and at the end of 24 hours, whoever's comfortable signing on these letters or whatever edits, and then we're done. So I think it's a bit of a compromise where people get to present what they're passionate about. We give the members who felt like they didn't have enough time to review stuff, and then, then we move on.
Janie, that might be a technical issue in terms of voting for that. We would have to have a special meeting, or I don't know, maybe Len or Jennifer Greenblatt.
We just voted on a motion to postpone all three letters. So then that was agreed upon, right?
Right.
But now, there's been conversations about, well, maybe another 24 hours. So, from a time series perspective, we have new information. So are you allowed to make another motion, or is that going to be conflicting? That's why I asked the question. I'm not saying I'm making a motion.
All right, before I
May I respond?
Yeah, before we address the technicality of that, let Lupe, go ahead.
And again, I think I've talked to Michelle. I've talked to, we had a great length of conversation even as a council, those of us that were on that Tuesday call regarding this letter in question that I sent out. This was before we had a calendar meeting, and letters, as I understood it, this letter was a letter I wrote on behalf of families with students with disabilities. This letter was going to be sent out on our behalf of the Students with Disability Committee regardless. And when I emailed it to you all as a council, I was not asking for you to vote on the letter. And that's where I have a problem, where even the email that Daniela sent, when she sent it, I was very confused because she said, I would like to vote on this tonight. When we're voting on something, to me, that stands more in line with a resolution, and resolutions to be brought forth with the public calendar meeting, because then we can have the public input in regards to voting on something. My letter, when I emailed you, I was literally asking, if you would like to support this, great. Love to have you sign on. If we had a majority of the council signing on, we are able to use the letterhead. And I think there was even some debate. And I didn't have a timeline. I did say it was time sensitive, but I didn't say that we need this right now. I'm sending this to you, and I need to know right now. In fact, we took several days back and forth, and I allowed for that to happen. I didn't say, okay, I'm putting a time limit on this, and I need your answer right away. I did say it was time sensitive, and I think you guys all respected that, but I also respected your time that it took for most of you to respond, or I answered questions for those of you that had them. I think it was very, a very democratic way that we did that. And I think Oshma's right when she says it's more about principle at this point. Because these are more in line with resolutions. If you want us to vote on something, letters are letters that we can all decide whether we want to sign on or not. I don't feel there is a need to vote in order to have a letter. I think that is something Ben had asked Michelle, and what she suggested, if it was not available to wait as far as time urgency, was, yeah, we can call a special meeting, which special meetings still require at least, I think it's 48 hours. And that also allows for the public to weigh in. I don't see the comparison here. The way that you guys went about this is far different than what I was asking for you to do as a council in signing a letter on our behalf. And that is it.
Thank you, Lupe. I
hope
think,
you see the difference.
I think people may see it differently than the way you just described it, but that's neither here nor there. What we're facing right now are these three letters. Len, Janie brought up a point whether we can table a vote, but I don't see how that can be possible without having a special meeting. What are your thoughts as parliamentarian?
I mean, I'm going to defer to Jennifer, but can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. But I would think you can always make a motion to table, can't you? It just has to be seconded and then majority.
No, that I agree with, but the vote can't happen the next day. It would have to happen with the vote to then decide on whether to go forward or not would have to be about 4 or 5 days later. So.
Well, I think it would be either at our next meeting or when otherwise agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Agree with Len.
Yeah. So that answers.
We must be doing at least one thing right.
Yeah. So Janie, so that would answer your concern. If we don't decide today, then it would. You can't just table it for 24 hours and decide then, because we would have to meet as a council.
Thank you.
All right. Kush?
Good question. Good question.
Yes, Chad?
But when we signed off on Lupe's letter, we didn't hold a meeting. We haven't had a first meeting yet, did we?
Yeah, that was an issue, that we didn't have a special meeting. And Michelle Chang brought that up, and it was an issue. So going forward.
That states have to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
And also Lupe is not in charge of the council. So Lupe is not responsible for how the letter was signed off on.
Can I also just ask a clarification based on what Robin Kelleher put in the chat? I thought when it comes to resolutions, that's, a vote and the majority means that the CEC would pass something. But when it comes to a letter, isn't that us individually indicating whether or not we want to sign on to a letter? So us having a vote tonight is to a certain extent not even necessary. It's just a matter of who wants to add their names to these letters. I thought, please correct me if I am wrong.
That was the point I was trying to make, Ushma. Thank you very much. You said it more eloquently than I did, apparently.
Ushma, you're correct about who signs on, but it's also, I believe, or previous councils had it where if you had 6 votes, you could use the council letterhead. So
I understand that, and that's my recollection as well, Ben. But if there were 6 votes, it would still just list the names of those people, and
correct.
It would not be that the CECD2 is putting this forward. That's only resolutions. It's that we, the undersigned members of CECD2 on letterhead. I get that. Even if I'm in the minority in the vote on all of this, I understand that a majority would pass, but it's not about the CEC passing this if it's not a resolution.
Correct.
Sorry if I'm out of order. Can I speak?
Yes.
Isn't the issue though, again, the open meeting law? I mean, I don't think what Lupe did was being brought up necessarily to condemn Lupe. It's just that it was brought up as a way that would then later came back on us that said that we were told that was improper. And this is being done to address that impropriety.
Yeah.
You have issues with what you now think is not good conduct or whatever. I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I won't be handcuffed. I feel like we're being handcuffed by open meeting law when it serves purpose to silence the parents, silence the parent representatives. And that's nonsense. We're trying to advocate on behalf of parents who have urgency on 3 of these different matters. And no, I don't think the issue can wait. So it's not a matter of doing this to offend anyone. We're not. We're just trying to get things done, because the mayor can announce a meeting whenever he damn pleases, and the chancellor can say whatever she wants whenever she wants. And meanwhile, when there's topics that have already been discussed and are widely supported, we can't respond. I think that's nonsense. I think, and I've sent off an email to DOE legal addressing many of these issues and open meeting law. I think it's being interpreted to their benefit and not ours. So yes, is this being played a little bit tight? Yeah, but it's being played tight because the mayor made the GNT announcement on a Brian Laird show on the 24th, 1 business day ago.
Kush, just to address what you just mentioned, the issue that faced Michelle Chang's was that not discuss these letters in an open meeting. Here we're discussing these letters, right? And this is what we're doing, and this is how they expressed how we should be going forward in terms of any letter or correspondence with letterhead for from our council, or using our council's letterhead. Kush, I would like to go on to the 3rd letter, your letter.
Yes. Chen, can you unshare screen?
Go ahead.
People see? People see?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just read it. Mine is quick, and I'll highlight the portions that are recycled from the resolution that we all voted on. Dear Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Porter, last week on the Brian Laird show, Mayor de Blasio told a mother concerned about GNT that there was a plan we'll be putting out by the end of the month, which I remind is only 2 or 3 days away. Surely this cannot be, as you both promised, community engagement before unveiling a new gifted and talented process. Community Education Council District 2 would like to remind the mayor that on January 11th, 2021, he stated the city needs to engage with the community to decide the way forward, and promising from this point through the end of summer, we'll go through that engagement process for a new vision. I'm not going to read the rest of this quote. He said he would do it by the summer before September. The chancellor said that she is committed to a family engagement on GNT when she took office and several times since. Both the mayor and chancellor that there has not been any engagement of principals, teachers, parents, PTAs, SLTs of GNT schools and CECs in this district or any other. By the way, all 3 of these points are in the resolution. CECD2 is concerned that mayor and chancellor have not shown a track record of working with people who have different views, especially when those people are hardworking parents. This is not in the letter, but we have discussed this on both sides of the aisle within our meetings this year and previously. The mayor and chancellor have not demonstrated respect for community education councils, even though these councils are charged with promoting student achievement, advising and commenting on educational policies, and providing input to the chancellor and mayoral appointees on the PEP. Most of that is a quote from the DOE website. CECD2 would like to point out that on August 10th, 2021, this council passed a resolution requesting DOE engage families prior to announcing GNT changes. Attached. This point is a matter of fact. Other CECs, District 20 and 30, I'd like to fact check that, Len, please, if you know which districts those are, have passed similar resolutions while many others are considering similar ones. Also point of fact. New York City families and CECs are very much interested in being heard in this matter. Matter of opinion, but I think it's one that we all agree on. If the mayor and chancellor aren't willing to engage with the community, CECD2 stands committed to do so in their stead. What I actually is worth discussing in this meeting. a working business meeting, which I'm here to work. The CEC intends to issue a press release and hold a GNT engagement forum 3 days hence on September 30th. The mayor, the chancellor, and other DOE officials will be invited to attend. If they're unable or unwilling to attend, we will give them the video and make it available publicly. If you see, the majority of my letter is to discuss when we should hold a community engagement forum if people agree. Rest is largely recycled from either the resolution or the DOE website, or matter of opinion that most of us have agreed with. And I think we can discuss in a working business meeting if we're here to work.
Kush? The in your letter, can this be done through your committee, a committee meeting?
That's what I'm here to discuss. I would like it to be. Yeah, I guess basically I'd like to hold a committee meeting. Originally, we were thinking in a week's time, so there would be some more time. But I think if the mayor is going to make an announcement before the end of the month, then I'm giving the minimum notice, which I believe is 3 days.
It has to go out 72 hours notice, I believe, for committees.
That's September 30th. Is it a literal 72? Is it
Yeah,
72
yeah. It's so.
I believe it's 72 from the
time of the meeting. So.
So then yes, 6:30 or later on the 30th.
Why is it from the time of the meeting?
Okay, fine, Robin. You want to have it at 7:30? That's fine with me. I was actually going to propose 8:30 actually. So.
Good. Yeah, do your meeting at 8:30. We didn't even vote on this.
Robin, you have your hand up?
Yes, I have my hand up. So this idea that we're like hamstrung by open meetings laws when it's not what Kashuk and Robin want, I don't quite understand how that works. So either I'm going to say this again to be clear. Y'all can vote on this letter. It is within our power to do that. I am not disputing that. You can do that. But then you're the council that like started putting stuff out at 7:54 when the meeting started at 6:30. So that's not on me. I'm obviously against all this, but and you can say, oh, it's not personal. And I'm not saying it's personal about me. I'm just saying it's interesting to me that the things that infuriated you about the last council that drove you to run for this council, you're behaving in those ways. So having a letter that we're going to vote on that was shared with us at 7:54 is your prerogative, but then you don't get to take the high ground about people's voices being silenced. You make assumptions about, you say it's urgent and you want to urgently represent the people of the district. And I understand that because I've been in your shoes. I have empathy. I have had that same sense of urgency. And I may have made choices that you disagreed with about voting on something but it was because I felt it was right. I hadn't gotten the input from the council, from everyone in the district. So that's what you're doing. You're assuming that the belief you have is representative either of the district or in the best interest of the district, regardless of whether it is the consensus opinion. That's fine. I actually have no problem with any of you making that choice. But I just want you to reflect on the fact that you use that as a cudgel. And so rather than getting in these tedious debates, just do it on the merits and acknowledge that you don't care about open meetings laws and you don't actually care about the input of everyone from the district. You just believe that your interest is in the best interest of the district, and that's what you're putting forward, regardless of the feedback, because that's the message it sends.
Can I respond?
There's no rules, Kasha, so I think you should go ahead.
Thank you, Ram. All right, Kush, okay, and then let Chen go, and then
I'll
let's.
be quick.
Yeah.
I'm pretty clear. I pointed out exactly where we already voted on this matter. And I think it's pretty clear that all I'm asking for is community engagement. So I don't think I'm putting forth any opinion of my own. In fact, specifically asking for family input that was already promised to us.
Then why didn't you send it at 5:30?
I didn't have it done.
But you were working on it during the meeting and you only shared it with me, Ushma, and Lupe. Because you didn't have it, because you were still working on it.
I thought this version would be more palatable to you, but it's clearly
Right, but
not,
you
so
wasn't,
don't vote for it.
so I mean, like, if you honestly wanted it to be more palatable to me or Ushma or Lupe, who you assumed it wouldn't be palatable, you would have approached us before 6:30, right? Like, so you're just sort of imagining what we like and throwing it in there, and it's fine. You don't need the three of us to vote on it. But like, don't pretend that that's what your priority was, because if that actually was your priority,
I laid out what my priority was.
Okay.
My priority is-
Can I respond since I'm part of
Kush and
this?
Robin, thank you very much. I mean, you made your points.
Ben, can I
moved
just
to Chen, and
respond since I'm a co-author of this letter?
Okay.
Robin Broshi, I appreciate what you're saying, and I know the letter was out late, and I'd like to apologize because it's partially my fault, and it's Kush's birthday, and he's taking the blame for it. But I have been sick. Like, I know you understand what it's like to be sick, but I've been very sick the last couple of days, and since we're working this together, it is my fault that it came out late, and I'm truly sorry to everyone here that I couldn't help edit it sooner. But I also have sick children, so I'm dealing with that and with work. So I am very sorry. And in the future, I understand. I will do my best to put that aside and get this done before all else, so that we have more of an opportunity to review what we've discussed already. But I understand. So thank you, Robin Broshi. But I ask that we move on, because I find that we're repeating what we're saying, we're repeating ourselves, and I think we should move on and let others speak, and then don't vote for anything that you don't believe in.
Chen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I just have a comment on the content of the letter. Kush, there's a line that says the people that transfer don't agree with, including hardworking parents. I would take out that hardworking parents reference, because there are hardworking parents who they do agree with. So I think, I think it's enough to say that they don't want to work with people who have different views.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So that's being stricken from your letter?
Just what? Yes.
Okay.
Just did. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing anymore, am I?
Yeah.
You're still sharing.
Okay, fine. I noticed a typo in here. Chancellor that she stated commitment. I'll fix that. That was just changed grammatically. The chancellor that she previously stated commitment to family engagement on GNT.
Can I ask a quick question about who sends these letters?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Ushma, please.
Ben, are you the one who sends these letters on to the appropriate parties, or in this case, would it be Kaushik and Robin as the primary originators of the letter that would send it to the appropriate parties?
I the process that I would prefer to do is the same that we did with Lupe, Councilmember Lupe, which was I'll put it in the letterhead if there are the votes for that, and whoever wants to be a signer. And then Lupe was the one who sent, Councilmember Lupe was the one who sent it out. I think the authors of these letters should be the ones to send it out and advocate for on their behalf.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I would just then ask that whoever the senders are, like Kaushik, if you and Robin are going to send this, instead of Community Education Council, District 2 would like to remind it would be the undersigned members of CECD2 in your 3.
I thought you might make that point. Can I just ask for clarification from our parliamentarian? Would you agree?
I'm not sure of that. Is the letter being written as a committee, as the two of you as part of a committee? I mean, is that?
Kind of as head of the committee, as co-chair.
Regardless of whether it's a committee or it's only the undersigned can be used. If not, the entire council, they cannot say the entire council feels this way.
You could change the language to say that in September, or was it August, the CECD2 passed a resolution indicating X, Y, and Z. I think that's perfectly appropriate and does reflect reality. But saying the CECD2 is concerned that X, Y, and Z, you're not speaking for me in that regard. So I would just appreciate if you could please tailor the language, because I'm fairly sure this is going to pass and get sent, but it does not reflect all of our views. So as a letter, it would be appropriate to couch that language appropriately.
Unless the parliamentarian has issue with that, I think that's a fair proposal. I mean, this is not a resolution. This is a letter. This is not a.
I agree, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm amenable to that. I will make those changes as we speak.
I do think if a letter is unanimous, then I think that would be fair to unanimous, meaning all 11 members, not 10, all 11. Then we could write it as a council.
What was your proposal, Ushma? The undersigned of this of CECD?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to you?
Which
I'll do in the other points as well.
In numerous places, yes. And Chen, if you also made similar changes to your letter, please.
Yeah, if that's what I don't want to happen is that we start saying, oh, if we pass a resolution, we didn't really pass a resolution because there's we are a majority of at least six votes to pass things. And I'm just curious.
Resolution. This is not a resolution.
I'm still speaking, Rob. I'm still speaking with me, please. I just want to clarify.
Lupe and Robin.
I'm still speaking. I'm still speaking. Stop interrupting.
Because we have similar beliefs.
Stop
We're not
interrupting.
actually the
Stop
same
interrupting.
person.
You have to stop interrupting. I didn't interrupt you. I just want to clarify that we're not, that we're not subject to majority of minimum of 6 to pass. I just want to clarify that.
It was my understanding that it's just that you need a majority to put it on CEC letterhead. So even if you only had 2 signatories, it could still go out in terms of a letter just over, like if this only went out over Kush and Robin's names, that's fine. It just wouldn't be on the letterhead if it didn't pass all of us, if there wasn't a majority.
Point of order, Jennifer Greenblatt has something to say.
Yeah, I am going to, for the next go around, get a legal opinion from the Department of Education, because honestly, this meeting, I hate to sound frustrated, but was supposed to end at 8:30. It's 9:38. And I think that you're spending time, in all honesty, on something that is procedural. And I will get you an answer from legal so you know next time what to do. 6 votes passes anything in the council. And I understand both perspectives on this very clearly. And sorry, my camera's off, but my battery keeps running down.
Thank you, Jennifer.
In the interim, what do you suggest we do?
So to answer Ushma, I will, abide by what Jennifer can confirm. Based on the principle of, if my understanding is that 6 votes will represent the council on letters and for resolutions. If I'm wrong, I will happily say undersigned.
I can't promise you I'm getting an answer by the time you need to send this out. So you should agree what you want to do tonight, and then we'll get an answer. I mean, if I do, great, but if I don't, we will use that answer for letters moving forward, since the bylaws are silent in that.
But I do agree that nobody's name, and I think we're all in agreement on this, that nobody's name need to be signed at the bottom if they don't agree to the letter.
Correct.
That's fine. I kind of agree that we're spending a lot of time on this procedural. So where are we leaving things? Are we leaving things the undersigned of CECD2, or are we saying that for the time being, Jen's
That would
point,
be appreciated. Thank you. I appreciate the changes that you made to this, Kush.
I too would appreciate it only having the undersigned. As it not being a resolution that is just a pass, this is a letter that will have signatures on behalf of those that signed that are a part of the CEC. Because these letters can be signed and sent regardless of being voted upon, unlike resolutions that need to be passed, and those only need a majority of 6 to be passed.
I will show good faith by changing it to undersigned. Okay, and then once we get a decision in the future from Jennifer, we will go for future letters based on what she comes back with.
I think that's a fair solution. Daniela, what are your thoughts on that, since you presented a third letter, or the first one actually?
Yes, I'll follow Chi and Kush Jennifer's also.
that's fine. One thing though, I disagree that I don't think a letter can go out with only 2 signatures on CEC letterhead. But
No, it cannot.
You can, as long as we vote and we have 6 members who vote to agree to the letter.
Right.
And then the ones who want to be signatories to it. If 2 just want it to be, I think that's as I read it, I think that's fine. Len, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that, as Jennifer said, if 6 of us agree on anything, then that's what happens. But I don't think anyone can be compelled to sign it if they don't agree with it.
Right, but if 6 people agree to the letter, I would assume those 6 people would be signing that letter.
Exactly.
That would make sense.
Do we, Len, do we have to have 2 votes then? 1 vote for all 3 letters or individual letters, and then 1 vote for all signatories for each letter? So is that 6 votes actually?
I would think, Jennifer, we need to do it probably.
Depends on the motion someone wants to make.
Yeah, but I would think it would make sense to do it letter by letter.
Yeah.
Correct. I agree.
Okay, I make a motion to vote on the signing of the letter.
Which letter? Which letter?
Daniela's letter. In order of what it was read.
Can we put that on the screen just so we can all be in agreement what that is, just so we're clear?
I have stopped sharing, correct?
Wait, hold on. Just let's start with Kush's then, for the interest of time. It's up in the screen.
Well, wait, the motion is now for you. But
I rescind my previous motion. I make a motion now to vote to send out the letter for Daniela's letter.
Well, there was no second, so let's vote on, since Kush is up. Let's make a motion.
Made a mistake again. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So I make a motion to vote on
Kush's
letter.
Sorry.
Cushion Robbins.
Cushion Robbins letter for purpose of obtaining a CECD2 letterhead.
I second it.
Can I make a friendly amendment? 20 years from today, nobody's going to know what the letter is regarding. Could you just put a brief statement in there regarding whatever you want to put, whatever you want to say?
Okay. I'll probably, yes, I'll reference the resolution.
You use the title of the resolution?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janie?
Okay,
you-
so we are voting you're voting for whether you're gonna sign the letter?
Whether this letter will obtain a CECD2 letterhead.
Okay. And then after that, we have to take another vote as to whether you're gonna sign it,
Yes.
but won't
Is
those,
that necessary? It seems pretty redundant.
yeah, wouldn't that be the same thing?
It might not be.
Just have one resolution, I'm sorry, one motion that approves signature for the letter in support of the resolution.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
agree with that.
I second that.
Okay, so we are voting to sign on the DOE engaged families on prior announcements for G&T changes. Robin Broshi. Yay
I
or
vote
nay?
against any letter that was shared with me an hour and 24 minutes after the meeting started.
Okay, it's a yes or no.
No.
Thank you.
Well, wait. It can also be an abstention.
No.
Okay, yes, no, or abstention? She said no. If that's incorrect, let me know. Kush,
I still say no.
thank you. Kush,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
No.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ushma,
No.
Janie, yes. Len,
This time I'll say yes because it's been discussed. Yes.
okay. Lily,
Yes.
okay. So it's 3 no's. I can't add, sorry. And 8 yeses.
Okay. So let's make a motion. I make a motion to Daniela, excuse me. What does your, as Jennifer Greenblatt pointed out, does your letter have a heading to it? So can you share it?
Yes. Can you all see the letter?
Yes.
Test to stay letter. Okay.
That's just a letter.
All right. I make a motion for signatories to sign the test to stay letter.
I second.
Wait, I thought we agreed that that previous vote was to sign.
That was on the G&T letter. We're doing it letter by letter.
If you can take the roll call.
Okay,
The vote.
Robin Broshi.
No.
Okay, test to stay no. Okay, Kush,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
No. And Janie, do you mind putting abstain on my last vote? Because I thought we were voting on Daniela's last time. So my
okay, hold on
apologies.
1 second. So you're a no for this one, and I'm changing
Correct.
your G&T vote
To abstain.
to abstain. Okay.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Robin Kelleher on test to stay.
Yes.
Chen,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Ushma,
Yes.
Janie, yes. Leonard,
Yeah. Yes.
Lily.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 2 no's 9 yeses.
Janie, can you read for the record the previous vote? Because now there's one abstention.
Okay, the previous vote on the GNT, engagement on GNT, Robin Broshi was no, Kush was yes, Daniela was yes, Lupe Hernandez was abstain, Robin Kelleher was yes, Chen yes, Ben yes, Ushma Neal no, Lim Fong Sim yes, Leonard Silverman yes, Lily yes.
Thank you. And Chen, do you have a heading for your letter or title?
I do. I will share it. Am I able to share my screen? I can't seem to share my screen. Oh, here we go. Found the magic button. Okay. Can you all see it?
Yes.
I make a motion for signatories to sign a letter to support Asian students and families.
I second.
Okay, Robin Broshi,
No.
Kush,
Yes.
I will,
Daniela,
go ahead, do the vote.
Yes.
Lupe,
Abstain.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen,
Yes.
Ben? Ben?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, Ushma,
No.
Lim Fong, yes, Len,
Abstain.
abstain, okay. Lily,
Yes.
okay. So we have 2 noes, 2 abstains, and 7 yeses.
Thank you, Janie. All right. We have some more items on the list here. Hopefully they move quickly. I have a request for a public notice. I don't know if anyone else has in terms of like committees. If you have a request to use to reach out to our constant contact members, there is State Senator Liz Kruger is having a discussion on social emotional needs. She covers a lot of our district too, and some DOE members will be speaking there. I was asked to discuss how they can use the CEC2, how they can contact the CEC2. So I'm only speaking for about 5 minutes, but I also will share some parent issues that have been raised that have been raised with members in the council, how students have been impacted because of COVID. That said, I would like to send out a public notice of Senator Kruger's meeting that's this Thursday. And I wanted to see if there were any objections from the council. Also, if there are any, I believe Lupe had a council meeting too that needs to that wanted to go out in terms of a public notice. I'm not sure now. Kush has and Kush and Robin have a committee meeting for Thursday for public notice. Are there any issues with mine or anybody else's? No. Okay.
Do we need to discuss specific time
Right
now?
Well, you put in the letter.
I didn't put a time. I put a date, but not a time.
All right. Do you want to give me the time or?
Times of committee meetings we don't all have to buy into them. As long as you comply with open meetings laws, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. I think that's fair. All right. everyone should be aware of their liaison assignments. Are there any council members who is not aware of their liaison assignments? There were some schools that, after speaking with Jennifer Greenblatt and Michelle Chang, that we are no longer liaisons with. Otherwise, I don't think there should be any issues. Please, if you haven't contacted your schools yet, please do so. Are there any issues regarding liaison assignments? And there's also on our website, you should see, I sent out in a previous email, you can find all your liaison schools. Okay, AA hiring update.
Wait. I see Chen's hand is
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. My apologies. Yes, Robin? Oh, Chen, you're
Well,
first.
Chen, I think is first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to end this meeting at 10 o'clock sharp. I think I need to take care of my kids. I think the business that we have, we can hopefully wrap up in 5 minutes. We'll take it for the next business meeting.
Can we, instead of making a motion, can we just run through the meeting in the next 5 minutes and then come to it at 10 o'clock and see what happens? I'm trying to go through this fast right now.
Okay.
Unless there's a second motion.
I'm not going to second the motion. I have a question about the liaisons.
Okay. Yes, Rob.
I guess I wanted a little more background on excluding schools where parents can vote for us. But I understand that they're not under the District 2 superintendency, but according to FACE, the parents in those communities, like, so example, if you're 6, 7, 8 at ICE, School of the Future, Quest to Learn, those parents are only eligible to vote for CEC District 2. So how are we reconciling not representing schools where when those parents vote in their CEC elections, those are the only selectors, those are the only CEC members that they can vote for?
Jennifer?
And it just seems unilateral, right? Like we took your word that you consulted with Jennifer and Michelle, but it seems like
I did. Please let Jennifer speak.
So Ben did consult. I was silent on it, to be honest with you, because I've seen it both ways. Michelle offered the opinion, and I'm not throwing Michelle under the bus. I stand side by side with her. That in the rest of the city, if you're in a 6 through 12, you belong to the high school. And since it wasn't under Kelly's superintendency and they were part of the high school, the decision was made based on that.
Okay, but just to be clear, the parents are considered District 2 parents, regardless of where they live, and they vote for District 2 CEC members. And my understanding is that School of the Future and Quest to Learn, and I guess ICE, all have representation on District 2 President Council. So does that mean that they don't get to sit on that President Council and they should only go to Manhattan High School President Council?
They haven't come, ICE has never gone, nor has Quest.
It doesn't matter what they've done. I know that if you're a parent at ICE, you vote for CEC2, and the PTA president there is considered a District 2 President Council person. Just like SOF and with Quest to Learn.
Are you done? Can I answer? Are you done?
Please.
So the decision, maybe that was the decision in the past, and I've seen this fluctuate in different years. That was the decision that was made. We could revisit it. Right now, that is the decision. I'm happy to go have a conversation. I'm happy to go have a conversation. Okay, can I just finish?
I don't, there's latency. It's I think you're done and I'm talking and then
Got it. I'll tell you when I'm done.
You're breaking up.
So so we don't go through this again. Happy to revisit it with Michelle and Ben, and we can see, you know, what she says. Happy to bring up all your points.
Okay, and I don't understand why it would just be with Ben and Michelle and you, frankly. It seems like it should be a conversation with the SLTs at those schools and maybe someone with a borough-wide view of this and the rest of the members of this council.
Well, it's not an SLT decision. It would be a DOE decision as to what they want to do and what they consider particular schools part of.
Well, okay, and I know I'm being repetitive, but they consider the 6 through 8 parents of those schools to be voters for the CEC District 2. So ultimately, I'm not sure how anything else trumps that. Because they vote for us, so why don't we represent them?
They made the decision based on the city of New York, not District 2, not Manhattan, but what's done around the city.
But the DOE, but face the city, the DOE said during the elections that just happened, the parents at those schools elect members of CEC2.
Robin, Jennifer Greenblatt answered you. She answered you in good faith that she's going to follow up with this with Michelle Chang, and we will discuss this further.
Okay, but
You
Ben,
made your point.
also, honestly, I challenge you to not wait for DOE to give us guidance on this. And I would think that you would want to be representative of parents whose kids go to school in the district. And that maybe this is an opportunity to exercise our autonomy from the DOE and say, this is who we want to represent. We want to represent parents that vote for people that sit on this council. And you do have the prerogative. And as a council, we do have a prerogative to make that decision.
We are here to represent, but I'm not looking to do redundancy if there is redundancy. I'm also looking to work with the DOE in such matters too. So I'd like to move on. Lupe, you had a hand raised.
It's okay. We can move on. There's an agenda piece that I would really like to get to, and
I'm trying.
No, I know. That's why I said I'm foregoing my comment for this.
Okay. The AA hiring update. I had asked Daniela, I'm just having issues in terms of getting to all this, and it is a priority. And I asked Daniela if going forward, if she could help manage the hiring process. So she's joining the hiring committee, and it's not an exact committee, but and she's going to be advocating for that going forward or leading that. That's my only update on that. Though Michelle Chang just reached out to us, and I will forward you her email today. She's back. Congratulations out there, Michelle, if you're watching via YouTube. Okay, committee business. Is there anyone who wants to put forward any committee business?
I do. I spoke to Michelle at great lengths today, as well as Aisha from FACE, as I think our past 2 or 3 working business meetings or the 2 that were really non-existent due to time constraints being in a school building, we were unable to discuss issues such as forming committees or even discussing issues as a council, such as liaisons. And I really would like to put on the record that going forward, I don't think it's a decision that should have been made unilaterally. I think it is good practice as a council that we vote on forming the committees. Yes, you as President, Ben, have the authoritarian, it's part of your roles and duties to appoint the chairs. However, even with the parliamentarian, I think these type of decisions cannot be made unilaterally by yourself and you alone without the discussion of us as a council. In fact, our bylaws state that we as a council will form these committees. And I know, with that being said, that whatever it is that you have probably decided, will more than likely pass. However, I think it's important that we stick with the decorum and Robert's rules and doing things in a meaningful manner that actually results from merit and not just because you decided to do so. And I have asked Face to join us on this call. Michelle was unavailable, but I did speak with her at great lengths. And if we need any, if you are questioning any of this, I open the floor for Aisha to please chime in this regard, being that it is very clear in our bylaws that we should be voting and forming the committees that are at least not in agreement, that we are not all already in agreement on when it comes to committee business or committees on this council, as well as our parliamentarian, as well as you making the decision to, you know, who is going to liaison each school, without allowing us as a council to maybe speak with one another and saying, you know, maybe we have particular relationships already existing within principals and SLTs and PTAs. And I think it would have been something that I think we could have all, there would have been some compromise, but at least there would have been some sort of reasoning behind why each person got each school.
Thank you, Lupe. I don't appreciate some of your comments there in terms of what you said regards to liaison. I used a spreadsheet where each member put schools that they're affiliated with or are familiar with, and I think the majority of all the council members did receive schools that they had suggested. There are some council members who schools that and there are some council members who have schools that are not on their list, but I think that represented 1 out of 4 schools in at most. So I don't believe any council member received more than 1 school that they had not had on their list. Otherwise, if we don't have if we're not liaisons, if we just choose all the same schools, then are going to be schools that have no liaison from the council. So, and I also, in terms of committees, I have followed the bylaws, in my opinion. And if you have an issue with that, please raise that with the parliamentarian. I don't believe I violated any committee decisions that are not in the bylaws.
Len, as our parliamentarian that was also chosen unilaterally, which I don't agree with. I don't think, in fact, the bylaws do state that we as a council would appoint, would decide on who would become the parliamentarian, but as you have already been done so, if you look in the bylaws, it actually clearly states that we as a council would form committees.
Please send a quote from where it says what you're saying in the bylaws.
So you don't know off the top of your hand what
you can share it. You have to have
the bylaws say on how to form committees and whether to appoint a parliamentarian, and your
I'm not
solution is to
Robin
delay
Broshi.
it
I'm not
and
making.
say
I'm not making.
Provide the evidence rather than pause and look up the text in the bylaws and confirm whether you did it appropriately.
I'm not the one making the assertion here.
Well, I have no problem providing
you
it.
Know the bylaws and be able to be like, no, the bylaws say the president makes the committees, and the bylaws say the president appoints the parliamentarian. The bylaws don't say either of those things.
And I just think it's very important that we remember that it's okay if we don't memorize them by heart, but the least you can do is say you could pull them up, because that is also open meetings law, that you are required to have the bylaws readily available when they are brought up. When issues about bylaws are brought up, you provide them, you give them. And as president or parliamentarian, I think you're the chair, you would be the person doing so. But I have no problem. I will copy and paste what is in the bylaws as is.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to move on to the agenda format discussion. The agenda, Lupe, you've raised an issue again regarding links to resolutions, specifically links to resolutions that were not passed, or links to resolutions that were drafted or tabled, and tabled after a meeting has transpired. First of all, agenda resolution links, the first time they were used, as I understand them, as I reviewed them, only began last year, last term, and the second half of last term. So there's been no historical passage of linking agenda resolutions. Now, anyone could put down an agenda, come up with an agenda resolution, a resolution, draft one, and have 3 signers, and that we discuss. But there's nothing in the bylaws that says that the agenda item has to be linked in perpetuity once a meeting has ended in regards to that agenda item. Therefore.
No.
Yes?
Before you make a decision, can we have a discussion about it?
I didn't make a decision. I'm just telling you what the
Well,
bylaws.
you said there.
There's nothing in the bylaws with regards to linking agenda items, to linking resolutions.
So Ben, and just forget about the bylaws for a second. Do you
Right.
think there's something
I can't hear you.
So forgetting about the bylaws for a second, just why can't a resolution that was, first of all, I would imagine that that record keeping laws require that we make available resolutions that were considered and rejected. But also, why wouldn't we just make that available? I don't understand. What's
Well,
the
and
idea?
here's where I had the issue was, it's been, so you say we've only been linking them for over a year. Well, in that past year, all resolutions that were on an agenda are available, with the exception of the one you decided not to. So
that's not true.
It would be, I'm just trying to.
I don't want to delay us any further, but I do think it'd be good practice for the future for us to have resolutions that failed still be a part of the record so that we can not make those same mistakes going forward.
And I don't appreciate you muting me, Ben.
I did not mute you. My hands have always been here. I do not touch the screen. So
Okay.
Please do not accuse me of something I did not do.
Okay. What I was saying was that the history of CEC is that they've been there, they've been available. So for them all of a sudden not to, based on, again, your decision.
No, that's not my decision. You keep accusing me that the resolution that you're referring to has been in the same folder.
But that folder is not where the parents click the link.
No one delinked it. No one delinked it. Instead of saying, listen, can we
I did
put
say,
it back?
listen,
I can
I
help
did
you out.
say that.
No,
I
you did not
say
do that.
I did in the emails, in our correspondence, I did. And you came back very attacking, stating, oh, there's no need.
Lupe, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Somebody keeps muting me. I'm not sure who, but somebody is. All I am saying is that all of the resolutions have been provided for and passed. That has been CAC's history. That's been our code of conduct. That's what we've been doing consistently. So when I went back in revising, because we tabled something, to go back to look at the format that you put in, because what I send you is not what was on the CEC website or the agenda, because you put our header line on there, you put the resolution number on there. I wanted to have
but
a
everything
copy.
else was on there. Everything that you put, all I added was the header and the resolution number. That's all I
I'm
have.
I'm not debating that. What you're missing my point. I'm saying I went back to the agenda to look at it, to print it out. I was going to print it on the back of the revised version that I was bringing forth at the next meeting, and it was no longer available. And I did. I reached out to you personally and I said, hey, Ben, do you think you can put this back up? And you sent me a link. You said, I did not delete this. This is in a shared file still. I said, okay, you sent me the file. Thank you. I was able to access it. But then I did follow up and said, it would be nice for the parents don't have access to that folder unless you send it to them. If they're looking on the agenda,
That's
as
not true.
it is
It's an open public. It's a public open folder. You can access it from the website. And
how
you just follow the links. Go to resolution. They're going to go to
right.
they go to the
But
month.
it's
term.
not in the link. It's not in the shoulder. It's not in the folder that you are.
I've been with my hand raised, very patiently waited for a long time, and I would like.
So I get interrupted because I'm just respond. It was my issue, and I kept getting muted. I'm trying to make a point. The folder, Ben, that you sent me, yes, it was in there. Where is the link to that folder on the website? Because all I'm asking for is every agenda where there's a link to a resolution is readily accessible. Regardless of where that, someone muted me again in the middle of me talking. I think you can tell. Regardless of where that folder is, it should be available when a parent clicks the link on the agenda, because that is how we provide the resolutions to the parents.
The
You
agenda
and me
is from
have
3
access.
months ago. The agenda link worked for that meeting. And furthermore, that you tabled that resolution and then you provided another resolution which passed, and that's linked in the past resolutions folder. You're creating a conspiracy theory here that is just not true.
I'm not creating a conspiracy theory.
No, you are.
I think you're.
And I'd like to move on.
All I'm asking for is that each agenda, if you look in July's agenda, if you go to June's agenda, you can click on the resolutions and they pop up, regardless if they passed or not. All I am asking for is for the same to be done. And I'm not saying a conspiracy theory against mine, because every single one of those resolutions from August's agenda, regardless of it being 2 months ago, should be available, and they are not.
No, because
You're missing the point.
They passed and they're in the pass folder. They moved from the drafted folder
the resolution
to the pass
that
folder.
didn't pass
Can I make a
folder?
point, Ben? Can I
Yes.
just make a point?
Yeah.
It's been 4 hours.
Yeah, I
We're
know.
very, very tired, and we're not being productive and being very disrespectful to each other. I've seen even people interrupting Jennifer, who I think was really, really rude. And, I really.
Not even a member.
Support. I am speaking, Robin, please. So I really want us to vote on Sheehan's resolution to end. There's nothing that we're discussing now is urgent, and everything can wait to the next meeting. So we can actually be respectful of each other and with the GOE staff and be able to be productive.
There's a second motion for that. Okay,
I don't think it's very respectful that things that I waited a very long time, and there's people on this call that are on the call specifically for this reason, that this is not, they didn't have to be on this call. They waited 4 hours for me to be able to bring this up. And now each topic that they waited to be here to be able to provide you guys with thorough information to support my asking for just reasonableness, you guys are totally dismissing. And that is being more disrespectful than, I think, taking the time as a council to discuss things that need to be discussed.
Lupe,
that's what we are here
there
for.
was only one resolution that was in that folder that was drafted. I don't know why the link broke. All you had to do was right click on it. You get the link. You can email it to whoever you want. It's that simple. But you're blowing this up like this is some conspiracy. And
I don't think so.
There was
if
another
there's
resolution.
Consistency, it's consistency. It's not about conspiracy. It has nothing to do with the content of the resolution, regardless of it passed or not. They should be available the same way that every resolution has been available and passed. It's a matter of consistency, how parents know to find resolutions. And just because a resolution doesn't pass does not mean that a parent should not have access to be able to view it and to see.
They do. Just follow the public folders, follow the links. My gosh. There was a second motion.
There was not a second motion.
Yes, there was. Jennifer, Robin Kelleher raised her hand.
I seconded.
She raised her hand because she didn't want to interrupt you.
Janie, can you please vote on the this motion? Do a roll call on the motion to end the meeting.
Yes, okay. Motion to end the meeting.
You don't need a roll call on that.
All right. So all
Just make
yay.
a motion and ask people if they could raise their hands.
Okay, please raise your hand if you'd like to end this meeting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So motion passes. Or do you want to?
Yeah, I would finish it.
Yeah, count nays too, Janie.
Nays and abstentions.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you put your,
Hands up again. All in favor?
let's see. Daniela. Robin. Jen. Okay, I got it.
All not in favor?
There's no one.
Oh,
Lily and Lupe.
Lily, what are you voting for? In favor of ending the meeting, or favor of abstaining, or favor of continuing the meeting?
Ending meeting.
Okay,
Ending.
thank you. I'm sorry that we ended on such a bad note there. Oh, the calendar meeting is for October 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.